Good evening, listeners, brave navigators of the enigmatic and the concealed. Have you ever felt the pull of the unanswered, the allure of the mysteries that shroud our existence? For more than a decade, a unique comic publisher has dared to dive into these mysteries, unafraid of the secrets they might uncover. This audacious entity is Paranoid American. Welcome to the mystifying universe of the Paranoid American podcast.
Launched in the year 2012, Paranoid American has been on a mission to decipher the encrypted secrets of our world. From the unnerving enigma of MK Ultra mind control to the clandestine assemblies of secret societies. From the awe-inspiring frontiers of forbidden technology to the arcane patterns of occult symbols in our very own pop culture. They have committed to unveiling the concealed realities that lie just beneath the surface. Join us as we navigate these intricate landscapes, decoding the hidden scripts of our society and challenging the accepted perceptions of reality.
Folks, I've got a big problem on my hands. There's a company called Paranoid American making all these funny memes and comics. Now, I'm a fair guy. I believe in free speech as long as it doesn't cross the line. And if these AI-generated memes dare to make fun of me, they're crossing the line.
This is your expedition into the realm of the extraordinary, the secret, the shrouded. Come with us as we sift through the world's grand mysteries, question the standardized narratives, and brave the cryptic labyrinth of the concealed truth. So strap yourselves in, broaden your horizons, and steel yourselves for a voyage into the enigmatic heart of the Paranoid American podcast, where each story, every image, every revelation brings us one step closer to the elusive truth.
We got a star-studded cast tonight. We got Andreas. We got Heidi. We also got Jacob, but Jacob fell off like 10 seconds before we started. I'm sure he'll jump back in. We are going, not tonight, but we're going to fix Mormonism between the 3 or 4 of us at some point, I think is happening. And I know Heidi's laughing, haha, but it's not a joke, because I think what we can do is if we can like sort out and sift and I don't know, like separate the wheat from the chaff in many ways, right? We can make a better Mormonism without talking to angels. I don't know. We'll figure.
You got to talk to angels. Well, that's like part of the fun part, or at least be the time travel. Your grandkids in the future will be the time traveling angels, AI angels that come back and see ChatGPT for the missing 116 pages. That's the solution, right?
So if we had to take a vote right now, 0 to 10, on how likely you are to just join Mormonism all in right now, like where's everybody at? I'll start with Heidi. Where are you at?
I'm at a negative 5,000.
That's not fair. That's not fair.
But let her explain.
I've already
also.
been. Yeah, I've already been. So like for me, I wouldn't join something that I don't agree with, but I also don't disagree with anybody else wanting to do it. So I think as long as you know, then that's fine. If you have the knowledge, then you choose your path.
And then where are you at, Andreas?
Man, I mean, if they would just like recognize me as the next prophet, I think that it would be easy. I mean, that would be 100%. I'm in choice. If they asked me to like lead the church, then I couldn't say no, right? So how's it going? Jacob's here. How you doing?
Oh, it's good to be here. Some technical demons of the internet tried to shut me out, but I shot them in the face.
Oh, that's cool. Like a Nikon or Canon? Like what kind of do you use? Like what kind of camera do you use? Or is it one of those eyesights? Probably.
It's one of those. It's a rapid vaccine distribution mechanism available in 9mm.
From the Vacus, which means cattle. Yes. Well, we just started with like how likely was Heidi to go from Exmo to some sort of, I guess I'm going to call it Neo-Mo because Progmo is a whole other thing. But the idea of like, could you be Mormon again? Or could you like, what do you, on a scale of, what was it, 1 to 10? Is that what you said?
Yeah, 1 to 10. How Mormon did you see yourself getting?
Yeah.
Where were you at, Andreas?
I already answered.
If I was prophet, 10.
Right, but you're not a prophet now. I want to know now so that we can ask this again when you do become a prophet and compare it.
Yeah, no, I feel like X Church is going to integrate, so it's all going to be great. Like one way or another, it's all. And a big thing is the Exmos or the atheists or the all these different groups of people that have perspectives that need to be integrated into the perspective. I like how the terminology of Mormonism exists. I like what it means, but there's like a bunch of different versions of that. We're going to have to talk about all of that. I think for me though, like kind of similar to Heidi, I don't join organizations that would accept me for a member. I'd rather
we're against the grain.
I don't know. And I think I get why it existed and what it's for, but like I'd much rather build something even bigger. But I think that I'd like to hear it out as well more. I don't know. I say again 10 because all it would take is for them to make me their prophet. Yeah.
So Heidi went from 10 to negative 5,000. Andreas.
Oh wait, if I was prophet, Heidi, would you reconsider your number? You don't have to tell me what it would be, but would you reconsider it? Would you change your number?
We're praying to Abraxas, right? Are we still praying?
If you want, you'd be integration.
We're gonna keep the cool parts.
You'd be definitely part of that party, deciding what it is. Okay, all right, but Jacob, what would you do?
Party.
What would you do?
Well, now I hear about the praying to Abraxas. There is a pickup from bare knuckle guitar pickups that I want now because it is named Abraxas. I didn't realize that it was a deity that could be prayed to. But if somebody's wondering what they should send me for my birthday or just because it's an Abraxas guitar pickup from bare knuckle pickups. I am a lifelong Latter-day Saint myself. I had my come to Jesus moment at 15 years old. I've been an abnormally enthusiastic and prepared missionary from my youth on up with the full-blown conviction that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints equals sign the kingdom of God, just like it's written in the introduction. I was the elders quorum president of my congregation in North Ogden. When I had a full-blown religious experience, I didn't know what a baptism of fire was. It changed my life. It endured for 4 days in a row. And it was directly connected with learning of the secret combinations who killed Joseph Smith, who was never a polygamist, but active in exposing polygamy.
Are you wearing underpants right now? Magic
He's
underpants.
at a 10. He's at a 10 out of 10.
I got excommunicated October of 2020. It was a full-blown mass cult there. Like literally, it was the entire high council and stake presidency gathered in a perfect 6 foot circle across from one another, as they say, unless you believe President Nelson is the one and only way to exaltation, you're not allowed to be a member anymore. And just like, sorry, I'm a Jesus dude.
Yeah, so it seems to me that you're not saying you're saying that they. Where you're like Mr. Garrison in South Park. Where has my country gone?
I still go to that congregation and I'm front row Joe, and they don't know how to talk to me or in some cases make eye contact with me.
See, I like guys like you.
They can't make eye contact. They're looking at their pointy shoes.
See, but okay,
white and delightsome, and they're polishing their shoes.
I just want to stand up for Quaker right here because he's delightsome and he is, he's better black for it. But yeah. most of the Mormons I've talked to, the thing that scares me is the regression from the Abraxas and supernatural, and like guys like this that are talking to angels or God. I think Seth is another great example. Seth Garrett, who he's become an atheist because he can't even handle the fact that he's getting visions and voices from God. Right? He's like, this is too much, because Mormonism doesn't really encourage that. And I think that maybe we need something that'll like encourages people to speak to and get involved with the supernatural, to live a clean life, to try to make the world a better place, to dent the universe that way.
Yeah, Heidi and I live in close enough proximity. Maybe you can take me to church with you, Heidi.
I don't go to church.
Well, we'll figure that one out.
I'm just a Bible girl.
You can be Samuel the Lamanite for one Sunday, and I will be a Benedict.
We're gonna switch it up.
Well, maybe we should like elaborate a bit on the Freemasonry or the Abraxas thing, or what is it exactly that like Heidi, you're like, okay, this is where I was like, I got to get out of this,
Yeah, definitely. Well, because it has a lot of occult roots, right? I mean, if you could go to 100 different theories and different ways to pull this out. You can even do the Adam God theory. Okay. Well, the Adam God theory is what? We will all be gods. Well, who else said that? How about Crowley? How about D? How about, it's just, it all goes back to really occult. And I'm not, you know what? If people want to be occultists, that's totally fine with me too. I just don't want to be. And I don't want it to have a slap of a Bible on the cover and say, this is how you get to heaven. I think Mormons should just be honest about it. And like, if they want to do certain things, then just say, yeah, we're occultist Freemasons and we like what we do. So we have the real knowledge.
Do you not
Like
want to
they
be a
said
god,
before.
Heidi? Do you not want to be a god? Is it just because you're lazy and you don't want to do the things that God would
Yeah,
have to do?
for sure.
Well,
No.
for me, like, the amount of secrecy in getting people to go along with it is what I find particularly distasteful. Now, in 1991, they switched away from these ordinances in the temple, but my parents, as well as all of the current members of the Quorum of the 12 and First Presidency, when they would swear certain oaths of allegiance, it would be by pantomiming their own execution, the across the throat, cutting out their heart, and spilling of their bowels. And that's among the things that the way that they avoid talking about it is by saying it's sacred, so we don't do it. What 18-year-old, because I was 18 when I went through for the first time, what 18-year-old would go through it unless it took very careful preparation and grooming to where you've now slit your own throat, symbolically cut out your own heart and spilled your own bowels, rather than disclose what you just participated in.
Yeah, it's
Right,
it's a lot.
There's a stepped veil, but I just want to also say this idea of becoming a god, while it's not, I mean, that's kind of, I think, a brigamism, it's an interesting, it's in Romans that you're co-heirs with Christ. And it is important. It's a major reason that detracts me from being a part of some Pauline church or Lutheran church, because they latch onto this servitude, celestial serfdom idea that you're going to constantly be servants and servants forever to lords who are lords forever, which is really it's antithetical to what it sounds like Christ's mission was, which was a jubilee, a debt jubilee, and maybe even some sort of a karmic jubilee. So part of that should sound like we should be stepping away from Sadducees that are telling us what to do. I think that's like maybe a thing that scares me about an organization that says you have to do what this old person says. I think the way that the only way to be a prophet, besides me being recognized for how awesome I am, would be to be like 112 years old, right? So that's on one hand interesting, because it means transhumanism and modern medicine are going to be the like way that you become a prophet. So if you're able to live longer than a century, you're all of a sudden in this special club. But on the other hand, yeah, you've got a lot of like kind of Joe Bidenisms and senility, and this is not good for any organization at all, right?
But it just always seems to go that way. It's like, yeah, they gotta have long gray beards, not brown. And
I'm gonna get some of that patriarchal gray instead of there. Well, let me throw this. Heidi was nice enough to send me an introductory discussion regarding John Dee. I didn't know who John Dee was. Some of the points that really stood out in that discussion that you sent to me, Heidi, is John Dee had the revelation to where it's like, hey, throughout all human history and all cultures, people have the ability to make contact with entities from beyond who know far more. And that was part of the catalyst for him recognizing the stranglehold of the organizational Catholic Church is a force for evil, and it had a lot of influence. For me, like I've still been able to hold on to it and even gain all new greater appreciation and testimony that the Book of Mormon is scripture, the scripture that it purports to be, like the Bible, while completely recognizing the institution is every bit as corrupt as the institution in the days of Christ, who were trying to kill the Messiah.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Dan Vogel is like not a Mormon anymore, and he writes about how there's Freemasonry and stuff. But if you look through even his work about the Book of Mormon, it looks like and they called it at the time like the anti-Mormon Bible. It was like a Bible. It's also about secret combination groups that are Freemasons, right? Like this kind of. Yeah. If you go on just what the book says, it's like looking at the Soviet Constitution. It's not in practice, but the Book of Mormon seems pretty Masonic.
Very much so. And not only the Book of Mormon, but inside the Pearl of Great Price, the Book of Moses, chapter 5 especially gets into secret combinations. So scriptures that are attributed to Joseph Smith are very specific in calling out, hey, Cain who slew his brother Abel, you only get a few verses of explanation in the book of Genesis, but in the book of Moses, it's gather your kindred together, have them swear by the throats, you swear by your head. If anybody reveals this, they're going to get killed, even into the specific satanic oaths that they entered into. And when Lamech only has like 2 verses in Genesis even mentioned, Moses chapter 5 gives a lot more insight, where Lamech, the first known polygamist in the scriptures, says to his 2 wives, Ada and Zillah, hey, I have to let you in on something. I just killed a young man who was about to expose our secret order. I didn't kill him to try to get rich like Cain did. I killed him because of the oath that I took that anybody who would expose us gets whacked. And so those are that is a reoccurring theme of scriptures that came through Joseph Smith. One other quick anecdote: the book of Abraham starts off by saying Abraham was born into an apostate imposter religion practicing human sacrifice. And then you start to ask, okay, should Latter-day Saints liken any of these scriptures under their current situation today?
Oh, it's heavy. I feel
Right?
like
That's how
you
I
have
felt.
to go back to the basis of, for me, just only for me, that I believe this is a channeled book. I believe these were fallen angels, much like John Dee. I don't believe this was the word of God. I believe this was the word of, fallen angels and fallen angel magic. And so for me, that's why I'm not anti-Mormon, but I just don't want to be a part. Like I think it's fine for people to be a part. And so anti-Mormon is like, let's burn the house down and not have it at all. But like, even if I go back to where Jacob is, he's like, Joseph Smith was the true word, but it died with him, basically. I mean, and it got construed wrong, and Brigham messed a whole lot up. But in general, you still believe in the principle and the word, whereas I'm out,
Yes.
and so that's my difference, and why I say, none of these principles really apply to me. And also the whole scriptures in Deuteronomy, where it talks about, if a prophet was wrong once, you should throw everything out and all this stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, I just don't feel like there was enough there to show that it was, I think it was true, but I think it was fallen. But
Quaker
I'm
Moon
very,
people.
yeah.
Come on, you believe in Quaker Moon people, at
I
least.
know. Yeah, I know. And then I'll never stop talking about it. It was a critical part of my growing up. It was a critical part of my life. But like how beneficial it was. Oh, I don't know about that. So, but for some people it is. I will tell you. I have a cousin that struggles a lot with addiction problems, and it keeps him on like a good road. And I'm not saying so, sometimes it's helpful.
What
So
if
that's
you're
why I don't
wrong,
condemn
Heidi?
it.
What if you're wrong and they were angels? What's the worst?
Well,
Seriously,
well,
what's the
before
worst
we-
case scenario?
The worst case
I could
scenario
be
is
wrong.
being pulled apart into being nothingness, and like it's called being the sons of perdition. They don't even have
Yeah.
daughters of perdition because girls are supposed to know better. I guess I don't know.
Yeah,
But
I don't know.
But with this though, I see a huge
Very
agreement.
serious.
There's a huge agreement, actually, not disagreement. You guys are both like they're both aware of the secret combinations that are within an apostasy. You both understand those terms. Luckily, you're blessed to understand what apostasy is. Most people don't even know what that is, and you're looking to try to find what the truth is. What do you think? You like Jesus? You like the Bible? You say still? Is that like something you're into still?
Yeah. Yep.
So what is it about
100%.
Jesus? What about Jesus you like, right? What does Jesus
I
do?
mean,
Those
yeah.
It's the hair.
And
I already know it's the
also
hair.
It is
not
that.
well, Mormon Jesus is white and delights him. He has the nice beach hair. So it depends on which one we pick, right? No,
Well,
I'm
your
kidding.
Jesus, no dreadlock
No, just
Yeshua.
Jesus.
Go for
Yeah,
it.
just Jesus. I can say this, and like, no matter how many things we learn, no matter like, I could pull apart the book he believes in. You can pull apart like the Kabbalah. You could pull apart the Bible, but with that comes one thing, and it's discernment. And for me, I've had multiple like things happen to me in my life. I've almost died a few times. It really critically changed who I was. And the Bible was like the only truth that I could see. But I also believe in the Apocrypha, which is kind of a lot of Christians don't. So, and I
Catholics will
do.
take you. You're allowed.
Yep.
With the
Yep.
I feel like
Catholics.
you're only a few steps away from worshiping Abraxas if you're open to the Apocrypha.
Yeah. See this. So the root of the word Catholic just means in Greek katolikos. It means universal. And so I think if you're trying to find a universal message, this idea like Jacob's talking about Abraham living in a religion that's in apostasy. We see it over and over again. And Jesus is also saying Yeshua's living in a period of apostasy, and it's immediately followed by a group around Jesus who are murdered, and the dude who is murdered, who's in charge, like the person who murders the most people ends up in charge of the church, right? This is Peter in charge of the Catholic Church, right? So as we're allegedly, so as we're looking at it, they're then saying Jesus is this, Jesus is that. You have to believe in the Trinity. Do you believe in the Trinity? Like, do you follow the Nicene Creed? Okay,
Yeah, I believe in the Trinity. Yep.
So I mean, Jesus said some things though, right, that were like kind of antithetical to the Trinity, saying like the Father is greater than me. He talked to his Father in the garden. He has some experiences that are restrained in flesh. Do you feel like there's just a lot of things happening after Jesus that we're supplanting on Jesus also, at least? Like, how much of this is just what we supplant onto him 200, 400 years later?
I feel like the whole thing is dependent on how you look at it. Like, I think you go back to the egg. Like, when you talk about Jesus, there's the yolk, the shell, the white. It can come together. Like, he could talk to the Father and Spirit, which could be a split of himself and still be that person. I talk to myself all day long. And if you're everywhere and you're everything, then that would be way different. That would be on a whole nother level. And I do believe Jesus was on a whole nother level. I just think there's too many coincidences in the world that you can go somewhere else. And maybe it's not exactly the same story, but it's pretty darn close to the Bible. And, you know, you go back to the Dead Sea Scrolls, you go back to all these things, like that's really solid for me, but also my testimony too, which is why Jacob stays in for his testimony, like, which I never take away from people. And I always say, like, especially for my podcast, if they ask what podcast living in Utah, I'm like, ooh, if you're Mormon, like, you might want a warning, you know, because I'm not trying to hurt anybody and I'm not trying to take people away from what they believe, but I know what I believe. Like, I'm all in, just biblical only. I'm biblical flat earth. I'm biblical all of that. Like,
how close can we get you to becoming Roman Catholic?
No Roman Catholic.
There's Santeria.
That's Santeria all day long.
As soon as you got the Pope standing with
yeah.
Nelson, then you can see
no way. Yeah,
I know, but I'm thinking earlier,
they're all together.
When you talk about Mormonism, it's like a different Mormonism than I'm seeing, because I'm not from Utah, you know. And when they sell it when they're on the street next to the Scientologists and the Hare Krishnas, they're selling it a different way. Let me tell you, in California, we're more open to the
people. Yeah, it's not the people. Like, I would never dare to blame like the normal people that are Mormons, because they're at a different level. Like anything, absolute power corrupts absolutely. When you get to the top of the Catholic Church, it's corrupt. When you get to the top of the Mormon Church, it's corrupt. When you get to any religion, which is why I don't go to church, it's probably corrupt. So I just don't buy anything from anybody. Like, whatever they're selling, whichever person that is, I'm not out to purchase. Like,
except for Church X.
Yeah.
Let's be clear, except for Church X.
Time travel church.
Well, I do love Xirtus, so he's like, yes, I know.
Let me ask this question. In other words, somebody could try to. Let me say this. In the introductory pages of the copies of the Book of Mormon provided by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they make the illogical conclusion that if you gain a testimony that the Book of Mormon is true by the power of the Holy Ghost, then you can know that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the one and only true church on the earth. And you realize, okay, well, what if a Roman Catholic were to say, because you now know that the New Testament is true, that the Bible is true, and that the New Testament is a true account in scriptures, then you know that the Catholic Church is the one and only true church, and the Holy Roman Emperor, and you realize that's not how this works. I recognize that the Book of Mormon can be a true account of prophets who had interactions with God, and a true testimony of Jesus Christ like those of the Old Testament and the New Testament, and it does not necessarily vindicate the institution which claims to be the arbiter of the Book of Mormon.
Right. And this is the thing, the Brighamisms, because when I'm looking at it as a Californian, I can't help But and then everybody on the internet, when
Brigham's
they're
a
fighting,
disaster. Yeah.
well, they're fighting. People aren't fighting Mormonism. They're fighting Brighamisms. They're like the Adam God theory, which is not really Joseph Smith's most articulated thing. He had some thoughts about
and
Michael.
Joseph, yeah. I mean, like Joseph brought it up, but it was 15% of Brigham Young's talks and content of whatever he wrote. Like I kind of delved into this,
I would be like 80. I feel like I think Joseph
Yeah.
Smith gets a rep for a lot of, because Brigham's writing stuff saying, oh, and you know what else he said? He said, I have a really like big house. That's what I need to have. You need, and like what 17 more wives. It said Joseph said so.
But I feel like Brigham was more corrupt on a certain level, because I feel like Joseph was led astray, searching for knowledge just like John Dee, but I don't think he was searching for it maliciously. Whereas I think Brigham knew the truth. I think Brigham used the truth, and I think Brigham exploited a lot of things. Like he failed on that, and he failed on a lot of things. Was he a magnificent guy? Okay, maybe. Was he also a bloody Brigham? Yeah, like he was awful too. But that's
he's good in a way. Like, he's good. He's a magnificent guy. Like Danny DeVito's great on TV. It's not that kind of magnificent you're looking for. But no, Brigham Young also lied about a lot of things, and we acknowledge this now. Well, like earlier talking about White and Delisum, I can't help but let's frame Joseph Smith again. Here's a kid you're saying might not have had the worst altruistic ideas. He had black priests. He had Walker Lewis, right? He had all sorts of characters that were, women that were essentially a priesthood, which is why I think they still let women do the blessings at all, because Joseph presumed that there was sort of a Magdalenian priesthood.
I think it was because we're naked. I think it's we're naked when it happens, and they don't want any heat. They're like, oh, we better not do that.
Yeah, I mean,
got a perfect text.
So if you guys came out of California in the 70s, it would have been different. That's kind of how it feels about a lot of the things. People are kind of, you have this puritanical anti-sex America that's confused about this. If you went to India at the same time, you had Jain monks keep naked. The most conservative, modest thing is to not wear clothing, because clothing is material, right? So I don't know, this idea that
it doesn't bother me. Just they're trying to avoid a lawsuit because they changed so much.
The point is, you have Joseph Smith writing abolitionist papers, having black priests, having women in power. It looks pretty good. I'm just saying, it looks pretty good for Joseph before Brigham Young and then there's
Except those, worshiping a brack and slicing black sheep.
Okay, so
why is everything in the middle of the night?
Why is the male chicken equivalent to Starbucks so bad? Explain again.
I want to hear that story that Heidi's telling. I haven't heard that one, but
you haven't heard this? Oh, this is this is the actual account of William Stafford, who testified and had his affidavit displayed for the court case against Joseph. And he stated that he had hired him once to go treasure digging, and they had to go out in the middle of the night, and they had to sacrifice a big biggest, fattest black sheep with the Mars dagger that he has, with his Jupiter talisman on, with, all this occultic stuff. And then he was talking also about when he got the plates, and he had to borrow a black horse, and he got him on the fall equinox in the middle of the night, and it dressed all in black. And it's way different from the story we get. And then you get these parchments. I don't know if you've seen the Holiness to the Lord parchments, or the Jehovah parchments, or any of the Seeing Stone stuff that goes right along with John Dee. And it's pretty good. I mean, it's all real. And these are affidavits instead of just like hearsay. So it's definitely a cult. I mean, in nature, which is fine. They're Scottish. Lucy Mack Smith's father was actually Scottish, and she was a first generation here. So it is what it is. But I don't think that they were ignorant like they say they were. So
E.G. Howe said Hurlbert's partner was an unreliable fellow, according to Fair. Just kidding.
True. But then again, they're going to have to make anybody look bad. Like same with, Brigham. So,
but again, so I have no problem with people worshiping Vishnu or Abraxas, or even like, I have a harder time with girls buying the Starbucks than I do with people worshiping Abraxas.
Yeah, that's also a siren for sure.
But what is the problem? Let's be real. What is because there could be malicious consequences.
Necromancy. Yeah, the necromancy that goes back to the baptisms for the dead and the work that we do in the temple, if it is under this fallen angel knowledge, could possibly be underneath a guise for necromancy. And I don't think any of these people, except the upper echelon, know anything about this. My in-laws are Mormon, and let me tell you, they definitely don't know this. They definitely would not participate in anything nefarious like that. They're very nice people. When I went through, it was nothing. I never learned any of this until I got
Yeah, but what
out.
do you mean by necromancy? You know, are we talking about skull and bones and they're doing Shakespeare with the skull talk? What
The
is it?
baptisms, it's more about the baptisms for the dead, and then the occult magic with the infinity mirrors, like the stuff we talked about last time, and all the works for the dead. More the works for the dead. We're not talking about humping dead people. I promise, like nothing like that. I try to be very clear because
Yeah.
people will take this to a weird level, and Mormonism has enough to talk about without being weird. Like, don't make it weird. Just tell the truth. You know?
The idea of using the dead body parts for occult magic is forbidden in parts of the Old Testament, right? Like you're not supposed to try to channel spirits with a skull,
Right.
right?
Right.
Uh,
Or
Which is silly because they're
channeling in
not
general.
using it.
Yeah.
I never got that part.
I think it's just kind of like the
I
no
think
eating
they did that
shellfish in
with
the desert.
Alvin.
It's like a hygiene thing. Maybe you don't keep skulls around, but with
Possibly for like disease.
yeah, but I mean that's not what they're doing. It's one of the reasons I find Mormonism interesting when you look at it from like an African perspective. You know, Africans love Mormonism a lot of the time because they come and they explain. So what we do is we baptize the spirits of our ancestors. They're like, oh, you get me. You know, that's the immediately. So I feel like that's the thing where again we have this kind of Eurocentric idea from witch burning that's been maybe a genetic disposition to witch burners that are just like really afraid of that. But I don't have the immediate aversion to baptizing in the name of the dead. If someone wants, it almost seems kind of cool because you're talking about helping someone else's spiritual path and Geist. I don't see that
But
as
it's
the same
against the
thing.
Bible because Jesus
If you're
even said,
holding a
like,
skull, yeah. If I was like
well,
holding a dead person's body underwater and lifting it up, I feel like I'd agree with you. Yes.
but also he says what? Let the dead bury the dead. Come with me, follow me, leave them behind. They're gone now. Like basically, we're not supposed to commune with anything that's dead and gone, and we wait. So all the time, I wonder this: are we channeling familiar spirits when we do this stuff? And it's not even dead people; it's realms. We're talking about opening portals with mirrors and the things that they do in the scrying. That's what I'm worried about. Not about my dead ancestors. Like if I knew for certain it was my dead ancestors, it wouldn't scare me near as bad as I might be channeling things from another place, you know, that are wandering the desert and have no place to go.
I just want to
That's my
say
concern.
we're at a little bit of an impasse here, Heidi, because if you take away the scrying mirrors, like I'm out now. So is there truly no Mormonism that the two of us can like coexist in happily?
I know. And then they quit with the collab in the 1960s and you wanted your planet. And I know. You were going to make a thing for that.
Someone was asking in the comments, can we just solve the Joseph Smith thing now? Like, was Joseph Smith a polygamist or not?
We wish we could.
Well, let me hit a little bit of that because like I totally understand there's enough evidence on this side and on that side that people that I respect have come to very different logical conclusions. For me, it was a spiritual path. And I shared with you just the brief introduction of it when we talked on the phone earlier today, Heidi. I was the Elders Quorum president 2019. A buddy of mine, 10 years older than me, says, why do you think Joseph Smith was a polygamist? I'm like, dude, it's a done deal. Like I felt so solid that I know my church history beyond just the correlated materials. Like, and plus I had already gone through the darkness of the accusations of Joseph Smith and teenage girls and married women. That time, so as I were to back up about 2015 and 2016, learning the uncomfortable history of Joseph Smith that is attributed to him, it was dark, gross. It got darker and it got grosser. And it was very specifically, I'm still prayerful because I got a connection with my maker that
Definitely. I am prayerful.
It's a guiding force in my life. And certain times when I would listen to LDS apologists pretty much confirm everything awful that was said about Joseph Smith, I remember like pulling over my car and crying out loud to God, I just want to know the truth. I don't care if it turns my life upside down. I just want to know the truth. It never turned into like I was ready to leave the church. It never.
See, and I wasn't that. I know this is going to sound horrible, especially from a woman, and people are going to crucify me about this, but I seriously don't care if he was a polygamist.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
if he was, like, that's fine. But he was actually more into polyandry, if anything.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I got married at 17 to a 25-year-old man. So, like, if anybody's going to understand it, that would be me. And so I just feel like they made a mountain out of a molehill on that. Whatever he chose to do or didn't do, like, that's on him as far as that. But I do find it interesting that once again we get back to there's always a sexual exchange when these people channel angels. With John
Yeah.
D,
Mhm.
it was his wife swapping. With Crowley, it was everyone. He was having sex with anything. And, bestiality can come into play. Also, Muhammad, again with the polygamy, with Joseph
Certain
Smith, again with the
Goetia
polygamy,
demons will
Jack
make you infertile
Parsons.
also.
Yeah.
So.
Let me hit
Yeah.
just a little bit what I learned regarding Joseph
But
Smith.
I'm not upset about it. Yeah, I think it's fine if he was.
When I took on the question of whether he was a polygamist, it was definitely a spiritual journey. And I didn't realize anybody was even questioning that. I thought it was just like, boom, established history. When I went exclusively to the 3 different official church essays on the subject, they've got about 80 plus different citations claiming that he was a polygamist. And I saw a very clear pattern that 90% of these sources or more were all from 30 years after Joseph Smith's death. The one and only
Even the scrape. I thought that happened during
well, see, it's great. The accusation
Xirtus.
of a scrape,
A
the
scrape.
accusation of a scrape with Oliver Cowdery, was
Yes.
from 30 plus years after his death. That's when
Really?
that's when this is now coming up. And
But even then, what if he just had, I mean, like, what if it wasn't total adultery and he just was like kind of too friendly, if you get my drift? And
Yeah.
like, I don't care. Like he was magnetic. Obviously, he had a huge following. Any cult leader, and whether he's a cult or not, but they usually have the girls. Like, come on, that's like
Yeah.
part of the thing.
I mean,
Like,
you gotta look
why
at how
would you
big this
join?
was. He built this
Xirtus,
giant. He
if
built
you're
this
the
giant
prophet, I'll
city.
be your
I mean,
girl. No, just kidding.
he built this giant city. He's got all these people in all these schools. He's got all these people growing to be the most powerful people they can be. I mean, he's gonna be surrounded with the most beautiful, best
Yeah.
people there are.
Yeah.
And
Well,
Yep.
I'm convinced that he was faithful to his wife Emma in every single way. That the accusations that were made up,
Wow.
the accusations made up afterwards about, well, these married women and these teenage girls, all of those are from decades after Joseph Smith's death. In other words,
Even what about Fawn Bodie's book? Like,
Fawn Brody's book, like the original sources used in her book, are things that the LDS Church says, oh, these, yes, we can explain that. And all, and all the LDS
Jacob,
apologists,
are you wearing that right now?
I'm not. I'm not. No.
I don't miss those.
You're going to get me sidetracked. Well, okay.
Sorry. I'm
For
sorry.
just a little bit. I have a buddy who's on a spiritual journey as well.
It's his fault.
And he took off his garments and he recognized this God speaking to him through the Spirit saying, "Why did you do that?" And he says, "Well, but the church supports the New World Order, and so I shouldn't be wearing them." And he recognized the Spirit talk to him saying, "Yeah, well, so does Fruit of the Loom." And he realized, "Oh crap, you got me there." And
John Dee was the maker of the New World Order. He was the first to conceive that whole thought. So also interesting. Yes.
So there's a very clear demarcation in history regarding Joseph Smith after his death, because Brigham Young had to rely upon the credit by the people established by Joseph Smith, and so he had to attribute his polygamy to Joseph Smith. Like, of the 4 men that were in the room when Joseph Smith was assassinated, Joseph, the president of the church, his brother Hiram, the co-president, they were avid monogamists, at least in a public setting, all of their communications public and private. The 2 known polygamists, John Taylor and Willard Richards, survived to tell the tale. And then the story becomes, oh, we learned this from Joseph. You can't oppose it without opposing the prophet of the restoration. So there's
and we do know there was a lot of controversy when he died. What was supposed to happen, who was supposed to take over, the patriarchal blessing of the son, like all these things were happening. And definitely anytime you have a large group of people and there's a death or there's a change of power, we know there's going to be some huge ordeal, which, like I've said, and at any point, like, whether you're fundamentalist, reorganized, mainstream, like my whole backing is, I just don't believe that and people are commenting like, this is cool because, you know, scrying is cool, or bringing down demons. You can do that. You can channel, you can get demons, you can do all these things if you want, because there's a whole bunch of videos that will tell you exactly how to build an Enochian table, and you can go do that. But here's the thing. If you do that and you choose and you're aware, then you know what you're doing. That's fine. But why I was so upset as a LDS person when I found out that I was doing Masonic ceremonies, OTO ceremonies, different things like that, all of it, I was so shocked and thought, why didn't they talk to us about this? Like, they should just be honest and not say this is about going to heaven, because it's not. It's about ascension, which is different than actual Jesus Christ, right? We'll take out going to heaven, but following the path of Yahweh, we'll say that. Because
Well, if Yahweh ascended, isn't that
yeah,
kind of the path?
true. But he didn't wear funny underwear, and he definitely didn't do.
He did wear a white one piece. Actually, every picture I've ever seen of him, he's always in that white one piece. I don't know.
He didn't care about hot drinks. He didn't care about any of these things, and I feel like they're filthy rags. Like, these things are just like in the Bible. They're just putting you between. Like, then you got to go to your stake president. You got to go to a priest. I don't care who it is. No one should be between you and God. Your relationship between you and God should be between you and God, and not between you and a man and God, or whatever. It isn't like that, and it shouldn't be. The Bible is very simplistic, and the letters from Paul in the Bible state that. Like, you're corrupting the simplicity of the Lord, in my opinion, when you start making it about underwear and coffee and just crazy stuff.
I mean, I think so. I have a lot of Jewish friends, and I think they like Mormonism because it has all the trappings of a religion, a priesthood that have to wear funny clothes, and you got to do these like tefillins and things. I mean, the major reason why all my friends are good video editors is they know how to do the tefillin well.
Okay, so let me hit 3 scriptures that are inside of the Book of Mormon, because it'll at least understand where I'm coming from in holding on to these things. Everything that I've heard from you right now, Heidi, regarding like the things that you reject, whether it's rituals, whether it's faith in specific garments, I am totally on board with you. In other words, I feel like you're saying things that I would welcome and give an amen to if I were hearing them in person. If you'll share my screen for just a little bit. So, part of the reason that I'm a huge fan and I have a testimony of the Book of Mormon. Can you share my screen? Okay, so I'm in 3 Nephi chapter 11. This is the chapter where Jesus shows up to the ancient Nephites. And I do have a testimony to where this is an actual account of Jesus. And when he hits them with, hey, you're disputing this, disputing that, Jesus hits them clearly with, this is my gospel. It's straight up simple. It is faith.
Yes.
It is repentance by turning your heart to God, the water baptism to show that you follow me. Then you get baptized by fire and by the Holy Ghost. And he gets so jealously guarded of this doctrine that he said, this is my doctrine. This is the doctrine that the Father's given me. And I bear record of the Father, and the Holy Ghost bear record of me. And I'm just going to go down to the money shot right here. He hits once again, faith, repentance, baptism, receive the gift of the Holy Ghost, endure to the end. And he says, if anybody declares more or less than this, whether it's ascension in temples or ordinances or stuff like that, the same cometh of evil, and is not built on the rock of Jesus Christ. They build on a sandy foundation. The gates of hell are open to receive such. Let me just give some emphasis. Like, this is scripture that came through Joseph Smith, where it's exclusively
cut to the sandy foundation of the Salt Lake City Temple. Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Okay. So now I'm going. This is words of Jesus Christ inside of the Book of Mormon. Again, my belief regarding this is prophecy regarding the Brighamite takeover of the church. This is Jesus saying, thus commandeth the Father that I should say unto you, at that day when the Gentiles, referring to those with the Gentiles who receive the fullness of the gospel, shall sin against my gospel, when they shall reject the fullness of my gospel and be lifted up in the pride of their hearts above all nations and above all the people of the whole earth, shall be filled with all manner of, here's the list, lyings, deceits, mischiefs, hypocrisy, murders, priestcrafts, whoredoms, secret abominations. If they shall do all these things and reject the fullness of my gospel, behold, saith the Father, I will bring the fullness of my gospel from among them. So I believe that is specifically that Brighamite takeover, changing it into Masonic ordinances with lavish buildings while the Latter-day Saints themselves are trapped in poverty. Last thing that I'll share is another prophecy regarding what's happening to the United States and the Gentile nations throughout the world. Whatsoever shall uphold the secret combinations to get power and gain. And it doesn't say if the people become so bad, it says, no, if you allow the secret combinations to get power and gain over all the institutions, whether it's the communications, whether it's Google, whether it's the governments, until they shall spread over the nation, behold, that nation shall be destroyed. For the Lord God will not suffer that the blood of his saints, which shall be shed by them, shall always cry. So in other words, this is not only is it strict, simple gospel of Jesus Christ in the Book of Mormon, it is the warning. If you let the secret combinations take over, you will be destroyed.
It'd be exactly like what you're talking about, Heidi, right? That's the thing. It's compelling. It's kind of compelling.
But here's my question. Do you still believe in the Masonic ordinances they perform in the temple?
No, not at all. I recognize it is very specifically a departure from Brigham Young.
Offense, Thomas. Love you though.
Because
I love Thomas
he's like,
too.
shush.
He's not allowed to talk about it. That's kind of the big beef
But
with
we're
me.
giving him a shout out.
If you could talk about these things, they wouldn't be secrets. Then we could see the consequences in people, and you'd choose what you wanted to do.
Let me say something regarding the ordinance of the endowment as taught by Joseph Smith compared to Brigham Young. So there's my friend Dustin Grady. If somebody looks up Dustin Grady, the endowment, they'll see a YouTube video where there's a decent amount shared by Joseph Smith, and it was not rituals that were happening in any sort of a building. The endowment he was talking about was akin to the kind of endowment that happened in Acts chapter 2, the day of Pentecost, when the 12 apostles received, that unmistakable power unlocked within them. Joseph Smith was active in trying to prepare the Latter-day Saints to receive a similar endowment. Brigham Young turned it into, let's go ahead and have you pantomime the slitting of your throat, cutting out of your heart, and spilling of your bowels as you pledge allegiance to this institution. That is
but
not.
Joseph was a Mason. We know
only for like a month or two before they assassinated him. That's the other thing.
Even that is the claim. Like right now, if people look up,
his brother's name was Hiram.
True, his family were definitely Freemasons. No one's going to argue that his family were Freemasons. I'm just saying that he was only a Freemason for a really short period of time. I find
it highly suspicious the claim of him being a Mason at all. I know that's another one of those to where, as I tried to nail down, like, where's the original source of him becoming a Mason? Oh, once again, it is years after his death. Let's turn him into whatever we want to suit our purposes.
His brother,
they have the dates, but that's all we could have. Like, how would you know?
The thing is, it's also interesting to me is right around the time of his assassination. It's like within 2 to 3 months before his assassination, the King James Talus amulet from the Illinois, I forget which Master Lodge, was stolen. Right. And so there's a big, Dan Vogel and a number of the Exmos that talk about Freemasonry. We say, well, clearly the Masons were upset because they stole their magical talismans. I find that interesting because even if that is Joseph, it would be happening in the last 2 months of his life, right? So that's already the coolest movie ever. But if it's not, it's even weirder because now you've got all these people who assassinate him. They all die. Sound like Jesus familiar? And then you've got this dude who's not even a Melchizedek priest. It's not even an Aaronic priest. Brigham Young. Brigham Young's not even in the thing. He's last man standing after everyone drinks the Kool-Aid, right? So that's, I mean, there is a lot to the Brigham changing everything and then burning it down behind
here's
him.
why I think he couldn't pledge to become a Mason because he'd been rejected at multiple places. You know that, right?
Blackballed by the lodges.
Before. Right. But he had a really thick way in. Is his brother actually attended Dartmouth, and most people don't know this, but Hiram attended Dartmouth. Inside of it, it's an Indian college, but it's actually inside Dartmouth, and there's no separation. So also their uncle was over the Masonic Lodge. Yeah, he only went for 4 years, but his uncle was the Masonic Lodge leader in that area at that time. And so, I mean, definitely, I feel like the Masonry is solid on him. Like, if nothing else, I don't know about the polygamy. Like, honestly, they could have done him dirty. I could see it. Like, I mean, and maybe he did kiss a girl once. Like, who knows? Whatever. Like, shit happens, bro. Shit happens. Like, maybe she did kiss him and he was like, get off of me. And that's when somebody came in. That could look so bad on you.
On Lifetime this week. Yeah.
It happens. And like that part I don't care, but the masonry part, he was
So, but that's
solid in
cool
for
too, what
me.
you're saying, because what
Yeah.
you're saying is he's surrounded in it. Regardless of if he took an
Yeah.
oath, he's
Yeah.
surrounded in it. He's got the trial. I
For
get
sure.
that. I'm surrounded in
Yeah.
Jungian and Catholic archetypes. I see it whether I
Right.
join it or confirm or not.
Right.
So here's a
You know
guy
all
who
about
then,
it.
but if he's forced to take a promise to keep secrets that he's been espousing
Somebody
all of his life.
comment. Sorry. That one was good. All right.
If you're already your whole life surrounded in these not quite secrets and you've espoused them and all of a sudden they're making you
Right.
what do you do? Because you spent your whole is this what this
No,
is?
no, I did the
Not me,
same
Thomas.
thing. I
Okay.
sat there in the temple going, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah.
And because my whole family was there, just like you're saying, and I knew what would happen if I like said no way, like when they say you can get up and leave. Yeah, right, you can't. Your whole family is there, you know, so I
I
get
have no
that.
sons. Yeah.
Right at the beginning, there's the introduction to where anybody who is not willing to make these of their own free will and choice, and
I
you
love
don't
your
know
voice.
what you're about to get into. Now, can I
Yeah,
do the
you
voice
don't.
properly? Now let me say some things that I do find golden gems. Brief anecdote: I went through a divorce in my 20s, and to deal with, I tripled down on my spiritual efforts to prevent myself from going full-blown depression or bonkers. And that translated into, I moved up to Portland, Oregon area, and I just started to go to the temple every day because I didn't have work until the afternoon time. I started to do 2 endowment sessions a day. Now, I recognize my Heavenly Father knew my
A
intentions.
heavy smoker, but with
Like I felt
I
very.
was just getting a lot of tattoos when I got out.
Okay, so I was in my 20s. I'm going up to the temple every single day, and a lot of things stood out. Now, after I had a baptism of fire experience in January of 2020, here's what I believe are some golden gems still preserved in the LDS endowment. It is a very solid representation of what is in the tabernacle in the days of Moses. The outer courtyard representing the separation from God. There's purification to be brought into the inner courtyard, and until eventually somebody's brought back into the presence of God in the Holy of Holies. It depicts quite well the lost and fallen nature of Adam and Eve. Having listened to the voice of the adversary, they're shut out from the presence of God, and now their steps to be brought back into the presence of God. My understanding of the doctrine of Christ taught in the scriptures, including the Book of Mormon and the Bible, is that we are lost and fallen, shut out from the presence of God, and there's steps that we have to take in order for Jesus Christ to follow the doctrine of Christ and be brought back into the presence of God. When we are
But they're minimal now because
Yes.
it was all hung on the cross, right? Like, so it did change. And the Mormons, in my opinion, like to mainstream Mormonism, we're going to say that because there's all these other branches. But in the mainstream Mormons, they keep this over you. And so that you will go do these things, go do all the things they want, go, pay all this tithing. You should give. Like, none of this is a bad thing. It's not bad to be healthy. It's not bad for a lot of
behavioral
things.
expectations become
Right.
the religion.
They force it, and force is of the devil. It's not choice. And if we were going to be a forced population, we wouldn't even need to have any lessons because that's what Lucifer wanted in the first place, was to do that to us. So anything forceful is not of the Lord.
Yeah, no,
and I believe that they do this so that they can control people. Like, right?
Everything about the force being evil. In other words, I would
like, that sounds
the
good.
second anointment was supposed to free you, though. That's the thing. It really was. It was like Joseph Smith's like, all right, I got an idea. I got a way out. We're going to do the second anointment.
The girls don't get that.
No, they did originally. And you got to read. I was just checking it because we had this conversation, how Brigham changed the words, because the way the words used to be were that the women and the men equally were made, like, and you're calling it gods, but it's not really gods, right? Because it's like angels. Like, it's ascended masters, and you're a co-heir of Christ all of a sudden. So you've experienced a debt jubilee that's a celestial jubilee, and that's been completely monopolized. So when I hear this, I hear both things I like about the spiritual process, and then problems with the organization. The same I hear about Scientology or the Soviet Union. Like, I agree, the organizations are the problem, but maybe it's not the Xenu thing that's the problem with Mormonism.
Well, and then Crowleys and D's and all these people have such similar value as Mormonism and other religions. We don't even have to just blame one. Like, let's be real. There's many. Let's get real. Like, I speak out against all the things because I I have church with my Bible. I have church with another, like right now, talking to someone else about God, or earlier with me and him talking on the phone about God. Like those are church to me, helping someone, being of service. I mean, that's all I've done my whole life. I'm a nurse. All I do is serve others. Like, believe me when I say these hands have been places that are horrific. Okay. And all of it is for good. You should devote your life because you want to, not because you're required or you have to go do something else because so and so said so, right? It should be in your heart. No one should have to make you do that.
I can hear somewhere in the distance though, like Jordan Peterson screaming, because now every kid that gets told to clean his room is like, that's coming straight from Satan, Mom.
Oh no.
Like, only Satan would force me to do this.
That does sound like my daughter.
You got to add a buckle inside of there. Buckle.
Yeah, exactly.
See, I'm like, everything that I'm hearing from you, Heidi, this like, amen. You're going to get a big praise from me. And I would even share that with Latter-day Saints.
I was worried. I saw you debate some other people.
Well, now
he's good.
Well, some of the things that you would see, especially when my annoyance comes to the surface, it's because it's people who I know have to know better. For example, like I believe that the Book of Mormon is scripture, and one of the things that I point out, my ministry is specifically to Latter-day Saints. One of the things that I point out regularly, I'm not going to out somebody, but I will say this:
right,
on a very popular Mormon podcast meant to keep the mainstream, the millennials mainstream.
Yeah.
Their producers and other people that are on the show, they know what's going on, because we'll have long conversations, and I'll say, hey, the first chapter of the Book of Mormon, Lehi in Jerusalem, it is contemporary with Jeremiah. So if you want an introduction to 1 Nephi chapter 1, read the book of Jeremiah, because what's happening to the Lord's covenant people then? The people that they call prophets are child sacrificing Baal worshipers. And all of a sudden the light bulb turns on, and I don't have to say anything else. And they recognize that is our
That's
situation.
a thing I like as a Californian who grew up around Bohemian Grove and the Alex Jones like thing, you know, that when you read like some of the stuff in the Book of Mormon, you're like, this is literally uncanny. And also just looking at scripture differently. I like to look at like Arabic syllogisms, right? There's philosophers who will just write, you know, if you leave a dog in a car without any water, it will die. If you leave a dog with a girl dog, they will have more dogs. Like there's syllogisms and they're just causation logics. I think that you look at that scripture, if you take the Holy Spirit out and you allow secret combinations to run a society, this will happen. You know, it's not necessarily prophecy. It's just math. That's just how things work if you were to do that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some of those things are, it's not necessary that they're, I mean, they are divine in the same way that like math is divine, but it's
right.
Let me say why I get along with Heidi again, why I get along with Heidi, because you're a Jesus gal and I'm a Jesus dude. If you've watched me have annoying debates with Jacob Hansen, I'm going to put in the plug in just a little bit.
It was that person.
And it is specifically because of this. He knows with certainty that he does not believe salvation comes through Jesus Christ. He believes salvation is exclusively those who pledge allegiance to the president of the church. That is heinous false doctrine. And he knows it. And that's why he tap dances and avoids it, because he knows he is not a disciple of Jesus Christ. It is first and foremost the president of the church. April 6th of this year, Saturday in Roy, Utah, I will be wrestling him, and it's going to be televised, and y'all should.
Is that really happening?
Oh yeah, it is, and we're all going to be there.
Saturday, April 6th.
I'm going to make Thomas come.
Jacob Isbell and Jacob Hansen. I've been working out, and I'm taking on Jacob Hansen in the wrestling ring.
You can meet Queen Well.
Where is this happening?
Not.
Yeah, Jacob, I expect to know all the details.
Heidi, if you show up there in person, I will let you choose which limb I remove and hand to you.
Yeah, I live really close.
And as you
we
know,
need a hand.
As you know, this is how in Utah they solve theological debates.
General conference weekend. Powerhouse MMA, Roy, Utah. I'll be putting out more information, but if you want to see the physicality of it,
I'm down.
What's happening?
Yes.
Bros tone too. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. So I will be there. I don't know about you guys.
I'll be there for sure.
We're trying to get Andreas and Thomas both there. Oh, that would be
trying to
so
make Thomas
awesome.
come.
Thomas, come on. Don't be a party pooper. We won't do any handshakes.
Everybody, please sell as many books as you can.
He's
Buy as
like,
many
"Go
Paranoid
away."
American comics as you can buy.
If I can sell enough comics to
To go.
fund the
Let's
trip,
go.
I'm in.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
Let's
happening.
go, guys.
You should make a documentary about the whole thing, Thomas.
Dude,
That's actually
I told him he should make a comic book
Sundance.
about all this.
Slam
This
dance.
would be hilarious.
This event is now, it's called the Spirit of Joseph Wrestling Championship.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I'm going to invoke the spirit of Joseph, who didn't have a good enough beard, but I'll try to make it for him vicariously as I take off Jacob Hansen's. You can choose which limb, Heidi.
Well, okay. Also,
I'm gonna say this: it's the hand, because that's what they took from Alvin's dead body to get the plates.
We'll do that.
it's also a very important symbol
I'm
in
just
both
kidding.
Christian and alchemy. The
Yes,
priest,
That's
the
why I say that.
the icon.
Because, yes, I do think that they dug him up for that purpose. They only put it out in the paper 6 times that they didn't dug it. They didn't do anything. They were just checking. They just wanted to check how the rotting process went.
Oh man, do you think that they have his hand like an icon?
I literally no. They gave it to the
so.
angel for the plates because they said she said Alvin had to come and he died, and they
Yeah.
were like, "Uh-oh," and
That's
so yep. I think that's what happened, and they had
Man.
to pregame it because, like, if somebody saw him digging
Some
him
of
up,
the
that would
Mormons
be
are just
bad.
like the Lubovichers. It's crazy. Okay,
Yeah.
but when you talk about like Jesus, this is interesting because again, I get back. I'm a Jesus guy. I'm a Yeshua
Yeah.
guy. I got the I'm a
Yeah.
Jesus. When the missionaries came to my house when I was 15, I had like a DVD burner thing going. I was just burning DVDs, and I think they were more amazed by what I was doing at my house than what they want to talk.
They're
I was
like,
like, "Yo,
what is he doing?
I'm selling discs to my history teachers, and here's the you guys like Jesus? Here's Jesus Christ Superstar, and I put Jesus Christ Superstar on, and like 5 missionaries, and they're like looking at rock and roll Jesus, and these guys, the Romans wearing purple tank tops, and they're like, this is not the way that happened, and I'm like, you guys are not the ones who are talking about anachronisms in the Jesus Christ Superstar movie, not right now, but. I think that like that's a better Jesus. So this idea of like this hippy dippy Jesus, he's also he's got to be a little bit more violent than that. He comes with a sword. He's supposed to divide families. He's angry.
And he's definitely brown. I'm sorry, he's brown.
I think
definitely brown.
I like Kwaku as my Jesus. I've ever been to cast
He's got
somebody.
a wonderful tan.
He's gonna be Jesus.
I'm like, I have to explain this to my daughter, and she gets in fights with people at school because we live in Utah and they have white and delightsome Jesus, and she goes and tells everyone Jesus didn't look like that. I don't know exactly, but he was definitely brown.
Yeah, black Jesus. I'm gonna make Jesus blacker than he really was, just because of how white he's been recently. Like
Exactly.
I've
Don't make man bun Jesus. No more man bun Jesus.
No,
It's
no.
silly.
I like I might go house party, just straight like.
Do it.
2 buddies of mine, I've heard them share their visionary experiences with the Savior, and I asked both of them, "Is he white?" And they said, "No, he's not. He's
Definitely not.
And that's what they get in visionary experiences, even though they've been raised LDS with anglicized,
because they don't know. But and even in the Bible, it says he was nothing to look at. They literally say that, like, you wouldn't know. And I mean, you just look at where he was from and figure out like these are in the Shroud of Turin. He just looks like a normal guy, like, but I'm sure his spirit is extra wonderful. Like when.
But what about this idea? So again, like most of these versions of religion are, you're gonna go to hell if we don't do what we tell you, and all of a sudden Mormonism comes along and says everybody gets into heaven. It's really how close to God you want to be. Do you not see like this at least the American civil religion aspect of how
I don't believe that hell's like they say either. I do believe there is a hell, but I certainly am not one to judge who goes there, but I definitely do not believe it's for the things they say, and definitely not for apostasy from a mainstream Mormon church and taking off my garments. But I definitely think it's more about like, you want to harm one of my little ones, that scripture, you're probably going to have some things to answer about, but am I your judge? No. But I don't think that as many people go to hell as they say. I don't think it's like Catholic hell and scary and like unbaptized babies burning up in purgatory. Like, come on. Like, some stuff is so weird that they do, and I think they just do it to scare people. Like, honestly, they're like, we need your money and we need your ass in church on Sunday, so don't go have church with the Bible and journal about it. That was my whole journey. Is I almost died a few years ago, I had cancer, and then I almost died again last year because I got osteomyelitis in my spine, and I had a PICC line in my heart, like everything. I was super sick, and I just went through the Bible little by little and journaled exactly how I felt, like over the scriptures, really delved in with my true heart and just listened to like different things and just uplifting sermons and whatever. And I just, I decided, you know what? All of this is stupid. Nobody knows. I just believe in the Bible, and that's all, because nobody knows. And that's, and I'm not going to sit there and point my finger at anybody either, including Mormons, including if Joseph Smith was a polygamist, including I don't give a crap. Like people can do whatever they want,
Right. I love how we're living in such a post-secular, like post-moral, amoral society that it's like these things that they use to scare us are not. Don't scare us.
It's not working anymore. Yeah. Like, oh, I wear makeup, and people like to do this on my channel, and they're like, ooh, you have eyeshadow on, you're painting your eyes. That's forbidden knowledge. I'm like, you're on a phone. You're on a phone.
It's a literal scrying mirror. Yeah.
Like you're not supposed to own anything. Are you in a house right now? Like, I mean, it's silly, the things that they say, and it's all to just keep this, like get the log out of your own eye, people. Help your fellow man. The one thing Jesus was really clear about was love one another. Figure that out. We might save the world. Like,
right.
We won't have to talk about it anymore. We'll all be doing things, right? Like, but people don't want to do that. They just want to just go on with their life and get their next purse. That's fancy.
Again,
whatever,
like
guys. Beard oil. I don't know.
Heaven is an end game, though. You've got people during the plagues and crusades, and they're like, when I die, I don't want to go to hell. I want it. So they kind of invent this. But what do you think of as end game? Like, if it's not, I mean, is it to just be happy in heaven? Like, what does that mean to you? What is the end game if it's not to be a god?
I think we are always subservient to God, because we are not to be God. We do not think like God, and we shouldn't ascend to be a God. But do I think we can be with God? Absolutely. Absolutely. We're his children. We aren't the same as him. And that's okay. I'm not a man, but I love a man, and I think he's really great. And I can see all these great qualities. I don't have to be him to like see all that, like how God is our Father. Like he can see all of the wonderful things in us, even though, we're not him. We don't have to be on his level. I'm fine with that.
Let's say we're doing like a performance review. What can God be doing better, Heidi?
Well, it's not about God anymore. We've screwed it all up here ourselves. Like God has to let it happen, because without it, Jesus isn't going to come back. It's all got to get really crappy for a little while. And people don't understand that. They don't want to live like that. You don't want to go through the hard parts, and it's coming, because he's not coming back till we all get really nailed, and they are going to come for his believers. I mean, if we suffer just like he suffered in the end, right? Like if you love Jesus and you're a believer of the second coming, we have to go through it. So all I'm saying is God's doing his part.
Well, you mentioned being open to the Apocrypha a little bit, and when you mentioned that,
totally.
we have to suffer in order for it to all work, where do you fall on the Gospel of Judas? Was Judas the good guy all along because he, in his own way, had to carry his own cross?
He carried his own cross, but I don't think he was the good guy. I'm definitely not a Gnostic and believe like Lucifer's the better light bringer type thing, or like the bad.
Well, it's Abraxas,
is Judas in heaven, or is Judas in hell?
Well,
I don't judge my fellow men. I have no idea. But I pray for his soul. I would hope he made it, but I don't know about that. Like that, they say he didn't. If you go up, but I'm not God, so
if you believe in the atonement, I mean, I feel like if Paul can go to hell, heaven.
He was a murderer. Yeah.
Jacob, if you're in 1840s, 30s, and you're running around and they're telling you like the world, like what is it that Joseph offered that you would have been like, wow, this changes everything? Why am I not gonna?
They say it was his blue eyes.
So I don't know what would have been appealing.
I need context.
I don't mean to change the question, but here's what is appealing to me now. Like when I read the Book of Mormon, I find I have a great love of God. I have a great love of country, and it's directly connected with recognizing unique blessings that the United States has received. the Book of Mormon, I believe, is a history that took place upon this continent. And the great message is salvation through Jesus Christ. The great warning is, hey, you Gentiles who have been blessed above all other nations, if you stop worshiping the God of this land, who is Jesus Christ, guess what? You will ripen in iniquity until you're swept off. It isn't like other nations where you'll have ups and downs and things will balance out. This is a unique covenant blessed land. And this is one of the primary messages of the Book of Mormon. I recognize the United States right now, according to the prophecies of the Book of Mormon and the signs that we see in front of us, is ripening in iniquity in preparation for the sweeping process. What I shared earlier in 3 Nephi chapter 16, it says, hey, there's going to be a subgroup of Gentiles who will repent and end up getting numbered among the house of Israel, who gets restored to the lands of their inheritance, including this continent.
And again, you have hundreds of thousands of people that came up against the Mormons. Literally, you have, I mean, it is, I don't mean to be as dramatic as some Mormons will be about it, but it's pretty dramatic. The idea of murdering women and children in Missouri, the laws against Mormonism, the Freemason, the militia push to destroy, it seems like somebody was scared of this group, and they're not as scared of them after they took over Deseret, right? There's like mission accomplished now. We got them. We can put them in our Boy Scouts, CIA, and FBI.
Here's my question, Andreas. Here's my question to both of you that could be playing right into that is, what are the two people that Joseph Smith, and this is where I'm going to advocate for him, because I don't throw the babies out with the bathwater. It's stupid. So let's say this. Why did it settle down after they came to Utah? What are the two factions of people that he got and contained once we got to Utah that Joseph was trying to free? Who did he free, Andreas? The black people?
Well, he did try to.
He was trying, and women. Right. He was trying to uplift women and black people, which Brigham slapped shut
immediately. Right. And that was huge because but at the same time, you got Freemasonry was against having women in the rights,
which is what got him killed.
But British at the same time, British men started allowing women into the rights. Ooh, interesting.
I'm gonna start putting posters in LDS buildings where people end up finding them where it's gonna say Brigham was right about women.
All I know is, Jacob, who would want to marry 55 women? I'm a
man who loves women.
I'm aware of this. I'm great, but like 55 of me, holy cow, no way.
Yeah, but you realize
more than one wife is enough.
There's only one me, but
one wife is more than enough.
When I think about the responsibility for us to be as godlike as we can, you figure that pure love and the imagery throughout the Old Testament is the faithful husband who has an adulterous wife, and the adulterous wife meaning the children of Israel, over and over again. The animal kingdom, especially mammals, they have the animalistic tendency of these alpha males do all of the reproductive activity. So I find Brigham's system of polygamy to be that animalistic lower level. In other words, it takes a level of discipline and willingness to sacrifice to where it's like, hey, I will bridle my passions. I will have a level of dedication to another person, the perfect kind of partnership that we read about in the scriptures regarding Adam and Eve. That's probably the reason why I reject Brigham's polygamy, and why I recognize that Joseph Smith was actively trying to expose the polygamy being practiced by Brigham and others secretly in Nauvoo.
Also, so Jacob, I don't know. Oh, sorry, Andreas. Go I've talked a lot. Okay. No. I don't know if you know this, but my brother-in-law is Warren Jeff's nephew.
Oh, goodness.
So I can tell you. And he also was Rulon. He married Rulon Jeff's granddaughter.
Are they coming? Can we just bring him?
I have him. I did a show.
He's a little excited now.
I did a show with him, and it was really good. But he says if you have a certain person, it can work really well, because his dad had 3 wives when he was growing up and over 30 kids divided out. But he said there were many people that were absolutely miserable. And when Jeff's came in, that was under Rulon. But Rulon was really careful to make sure the girls were at least 18. Now, they still assigned them husbands, didn't give them free choice, all that stuff. You know what? They didn't give the men free choice. He said, I found out I was getting married. One morning, I woke up. I'd never known anything. I've never even kissed a girl or held her hand or anything. They called me and said, the Lord said, and by 7 p.m. that night, I was married and had no clue what I was going to do. He's like, I
6
was
of my
terrified.
Hindu friends as well. Keep
Yeah,
going.
yeah, yeah. It was wild. And so he just explains like there were happy people, but there were a lot of people that were kept there. And anytime you make and force someone, that's the problem. My husband is a Gemini. I did see that. That was funny. Shout out Casey. He's watching.
I agree. I think force is the problem. I have friends in Africa who come from areas where, like, you buy a wife a house and you get some cattle, and there's ways in India also where they have arranged marriages. If things are part of a process, if people are able to volunteer into it, that's a big problem in India.
If they're happy, if they're fine, if they're happy about it and they're all happy, more power to them. Like, I'm not going to tell you how to live your life.
I have seen families die in trailers because of the fundamentalist LDS church, though. I feel like it's not actually a lot of the time I hear about people that have way too many kids and they're not taking care of them one way or another.
Yeah.
Feel like
you got to really have a good job.
Husband. I mean, I think who's the lady that you talk to all the time, Jacob, who's got like more kids than anybody? She's a great mother. I don't think she's a billionaire.
132 problems. She's got 13 children of her own.
Wow.
Not a billionaire, though.
When you take a look at when the pretext is raise up a righteous branch, I think Brigham Young was averaging like less than 2.0 children per wife.
It was, he had 57 kids and 55 wives.
Doing worse in Japan,
Yeah.
In other
One
words,
hit wonder. One hit wonder.
Just a pretext. But for me, I've always been very traditional libertarian. Let people live their own lives if it's not affecting me. But the more that I research the Brighamite version of polygamy, that's one of the times where I feel like, no, from a moral standpoint, I think it should be opposed with force.
Because
I think
a
lot of the things that you're afraid of, a lot of things that you're saying that you've gone through in the Mormon church are things that I really feel are holdovers from that time. I mean, this is why constantly, whenever a missionary is out there, they're saying, no, we don't do that anymore. Like, that was Brigham's idea. Like, it's almost that is literally in the book for every question at this point, right?
In other words, Brigham is rejected by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. On one, I was in Arizona and I got invited like last moment to be on Midnight Mormons, and that might be the one that you're referring to where I hit Jacob Hansen pretty gosh darn hard.
You guys were arguing and they wouldn't let you talk, and they wouldn't share your screen.
And I kept trying to ask them.
Bad.
Was it the one where I kept trying to ask them, is it from Jesus Christ? And
you kept saying, let me share my screen and let me talk, and they were like, no.
And here's the reason why. They know this. They know that if the discussion is founded on Jesus Christ, they fall apart, because Brigham Young was not a disciple of Jesus Christ. Brigham Young did not teach the doctrine of Christ. Brigham Young was that fulfillment of 3 Nephi chapter 16, verses 10 through 13, where it was secret combinations that took over the church, rejected the simple, pure doctrine of Christ.
This seems like one of the things Thomas... Oh, go ahead.
No, because I've said a lot of things.
Well, can you remember what you're gonna say? Because I can remember.
Yeah.
Okay. Thomas's interest in scrying and magic and things like that, from, I don't want to say like a light or a dark, but like from a positive and a loving perspective. I see that in that angle. It's like Joseph Smith is wrestling with all this time. He's in this really opportune moment. It's probably the most opportune moment since Spain in the Islamic period, where you could have had all of these different kinds of ideas at once, and you could have had scrying mirrors or necromancers around you, or everywhere you go is a minister on a street pole. So he's hearing all of these things and he's wrestling with how to do it properly. It's all about angels. This is because you're saying fallen angels. Yeah. And I think we can kind of agree that maybe Brigham Young is surrounding himself in rituals that could lead to fallen angels.
For sure.
But everything that Joseph says seems like it's not fallen angels. They're supposed to be more positive angels. It's more like, the good guys. You don't think so?
Well, from the excerpts of like his Reformed Egyptian, honestly, it looked like the exact same as Enochian language, which I brought last time.
I just asked Blake Lemoyne, the Google whistleblower, why we shouldn't teach AI about Enochian and he just started laughing. He just started laughing hysterically. No, he thinks it will. He's just terrified of Enochian magic. Why are you
every time I send myself the Enochian pictures so that I can put them from my phone to my computer. It tags them and says they're unsafe and all this stuff. Like, it's so wild. So
Goodness
there's
gracious.
something going on with that for sure. But what? I don't know. I think
Goodness
there are
gracious,
people that
Biology
do.
Almighty.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. But I mean, at the end of the day, it makes sense. Like, if you go back to, and then I don't know, Jacob, if you know that his first baby was born severely, like, on Joseph Smith,
Yes.
and then they named it Alvin, and it was 9 months to the day after the plates were received. And I have
That
to
he
ask
died.
you, what about a Faustian bargain? Yeah, like, he was severely deformed. And it makes me wonder, because none of John Dee's heart was pure. He loved God. He loved God, and he was all about God. And then he still ended up being deceived. So, I
Yeah.
mean, how do we know?
I find
There are a
myself
lot of dead kids around Joseph Smith. It is weird.
It's scary. Yeah.
Sorry, Jacob.
And his mom had a whole bunch of kids and never lost any. When they say, oh, it's the times or whatever, I'm like, yeah, but his
Right.
mom was a whole generation before and never lost any of her kids.
And also, if you are going to have to sacrifice one, go with Theodore. Don't do Alvin. Don't do Simon.
Yeah, there you go.
I love
And it has
all
to usually be the first. Yeah. Sorry, I have to adjust sometimes. I have bad back.
Jacob,
I'm
sorry.
a little wiggly.
No, you're totally good.
So what do you, do you like
What do
wonder
you think
about
humans?
that?
Do you wonder about Faustian bargain, human sacrifices, and that?
I don't know
And
enough
the
about-
channeling.
So I'm aware of the baby with major deformities, especially how that would be perceived as a very bad omen, possibly signs of bad works that were happening on the other side. I try to be as open about my biases and prejudices as possible, because I feel like people can add that into the equation with what I say. I am more inclined to believe that Joseph Smith was honest and upright in his pursuits, but those are my biases. I take that into equation myself and make sure that I'm open to where, hey, what am I supposed to be learning? There's so much that there is to learn. I have found that as I stay pretty strict and dedicated in being prayerful, the things that I should be investing my time in rise to the surface naturally, and things that might be my own desires fall to the background. That's my long way of saying I haven't dug into that, because it's not something that causes me to shake testimony, because even though I believe Joseph Smith is a true witness of Jesus Christ, I'm not a disciple of Joseph Smith. I do believe that he did.
But you're a Jesus guy. You're a Jesus guy, but you still believe in the Book of Mormon. But that's why I think you have a different path, and you're getting discernment, because you still believe ultimately in Jesus Christ and the Bible.
Yes.
So no matter what, you're kind of in a safe space, but then also you have to look at, like, do not add or take away. It says in the Bible, don't add anything. Then you
but the Bible itself, I mean, are we going to do this? Because, like, the Bible we've got.
I don't think they should have took out the books in the Bible either. That's why
I don't even just mean that. Like, for
Apocrypha.
instance, the word Lucifer in the Bible is like a literal translation of phosphore, and we just have it as an etymological. Mark has 8 verses added to the end of it. The idea of Isaiah being written 4 different periods in history, 200, 600 years apart from
I
each
don't think
other.
any of that
Genesis
should
to
happen.
Bridge. But so the thing is, the only people I know who are interested in doing that, besides some of the cool Jesuit
weird people,
trained Catholic, Mormons are the only ones who are not sola scriptura. Sola scriptura is dangerous if we're using an NIV Bible. It's dangerous, like, or even King James is clearly. You know what else King James wrote? The book on demonology. You know,
three of them, demonologia. But I actually feel that those are important, because as I've always said, if you want to know the answer about anything, you better know as above, so below. You better study them both. So that's what I do. And that's why I've learned so much on occult stuff. So
the Holy Hip Hop Bible. Holy Hip Hop Bible.
Oh, I remember this from Youth Ward. Yeah.
That's funny.
I think that Joseph Smith, though, introduced, again, I'm going back to that, Joseph Smith introduced a new path to Christianity that hadn't been around. I mean, and as soon as Jesus is dead, they're telling you have to be a slave. Jesus's death is a blood atonement for your immortality.
But it shouldn't have. It should have set us free. It should have set us free, because everything was hung on the cross. Everything was done when he said it was done. And the guy that was next to him, that was the thief, that had done nothing to earn his way to heaven. And Jesus looked at him and said, because you believe in me, you will be with me in heaven tonight. He didn't do anything to earn it, and neither can we. We can't earn it.
And I want to follow up on that, because that was probably the big change that happened to me. I was quite convinced, in all sincerity, that full-on activity in the church and serving within that vehicle was the way that I showed God I loved him, and that's the way that I go to heaven. Not that I didn't believe that I was earning my way to heaven, but I believed that, hey, that's the way that I show my dedication. When I had that baptism of fire experience in January of 2020, it unlocked a lot of things. And the main message that it unlocked to me, it represents me making full submission to God. Stop saying that it's any of my own will. And when I make that full submission to God, relying wholly upon the merits of Jesus Christ, it naturally, the works of my life become a byproduct of me submitting my will to God. Jesus did it at the ultimate level.
But I think that's why you do so well, because you ultimately, and answer this truthfully, especially mainstream, they don't read their Bibles like that, and they don't give Jesus that credit. They're all about Joseph worship. And I know that, like, even if you think he's a good guy or whatever, we shouldn't be doing that. We should only,
my experience with primarily in the western part of the United States, Latter-day Saints, it is right now not worship of Joseph Smith. It is worship of whoever the current president of the church is. Like when I ask, like the times I talk to current LDS bishops, and I'll just ask, President Nelson writes about being a member of Skull and Bones. Is that a red flag?
That's true.
And they can't even process it. It's as if I just spoke Martian to them. There's that level.
And guess how much that book is now? It's $1,300 now if you want to buy that book where he speaks about it.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say this about my stake president, the one who called the disciplinary council against me. When I would ask him, how are you pointing me to the Savior? He would point to the picture on the wall by pointing to his prophet. Literally, my Bishop Pete Glenn, my stake president Cam Ryan, 0 times in the 5+ years that I've lived in the same exact congregation have they ever pointed me to Jesus Christ. They point to Jesus Christ as a pretext to point to the president of the institution.
Let's go.
Don't forget the skull and key. Also the Allen key.
There it is.
Yeah. Yep. In other words,
Jacob, I think they saved your life by kicking you out. I'm sorry. I'm happy it happened.
Well, it founded me on the rock of Jesus Christ, which I thought that I was on the rock of Jesus Christ, but I do recognize my Heavenly Father had a plan for all of the aspects of my life. Caused me to shout out in praise because I know God has a perfect plan. The only thing that I can do, I cannot earn myself into heaven or anything else. And like when I talk about my ministry, it is, people will ask, what's your ministry? It's super duper simple. Turn my heart to God and teach others to do the same. And when it comes,
I love it. Minus the Book of Mormon, and I'll come.
Book of Mormon, I think you just got to read it to be about Freemasonry. No offense, Thomas, but
we love you, Thomas. He's gonna leave.
Yeah.
I think though, again, like I would give up on Mormonism more if it didn't give me those things of you're going to be a co-heir of Christ. You're not just using Christ's sacrifice like a Satanist to become immortal forever. The blood magic, flesh magic thing. There's a lot of things that I see.
But what if you're his child? What if you're not his equal and you're his creation instead?
Well, but we are all children of God, but so is Christ. Christ is God restrained to flesh, but we're co-heirs. I like it better. I don't want to be a serf. I'm done being a serf. That's like the problem with the human condition, why the American civil religion happened. And what we need to save most of all, and that women can do the rituals, that blacks can do the rituals, that you can do whatever God wants of you without permission from some proxy. And I think it's always the proxy. Like you're saying, we should be careful about worshiping Muhammad or Joseph Smith or Pinelli. But
whoever,
yeah.
It could be. What?
I heard that from a girl from Arizona. It was like someone called. I think it was on Midnight Mormon. She said Pinelli, and I was like, this is real. They really do this.
Even our country, even patriotic people take it too far to a point. This country was founded on Freemasonry, and that's just how it is. It wasn't founded on freedom of religion, and that's okay with me, but just be careful what you're worshiping. No, be aware of what you're doing. If you know, that's great. But if you don't know, why are you constantly looking for a king, right? That's what is in the Bible, all over the Bible. Like, why were we always looking for a king? Give Caesar what
we're not
Caesar's.
trying to be because we're not trying to be co-heirs with Christ. If we were all trying to be kings and queens, which is the second anointing, first edition, then we would be free from sin and we'd be able to stay. That is literally Dharma. This is the coolest thing about it, because then you're breaking free of Jesus being in an Abrahamic religion, which is already Abram trying to break out of an Abrahamic religion. He's saying we shouldn't sacrifice people, right? We're getting into that idea of Dharma, which is just, if you do this, this happens. And no one can argue with consequences. They just happen. So it breaks up all of these arguments about religion and replaces it with physics. And I feel like we're really close. We're really like, this is the kind of way I want to get like Jacob Hansen, not by wrestling him, but I think it'll work. I think we're going to get to a point where Mormons, and not just like the Mormons in the church, but people that have rejected
the Exmos. I'm an Exmo. We call ourselves.
But X, like church, Xirtus.
But you still stayed on the rock of Christ. So I
applaud yes. I was lucky.
For Xirtus.
I was super lucky on that one, because my mom had planted some seeds in me long ago, and then my husband had been out for a long time, and he started showing me things, and I was just like, huh. And luckily I never went down the path of like atheism. I respect your choices if you like to do that, but for me, Christ is my foundation, and it keeps me where I need to be and like whole within myself. But the only difference I have between me and Andreas is I don't mind being a servant to one person, and that's God. I don't mind if I'm not on his level.
I'm not a Trinitarian. I think I'm still a servant to God. I just don't think Jesus is like, I'm non-Trinitarian, but I do think we're all servants to God. And I just also think this idea of God, because we're using this little Germanic idea of God, and then using that to describe the supreme eternal that is beyond creation and destruction. And those, to me, I mean, little gods or little archons or things that are in the image of God are different than angels, for instance, right? Angels
absolutely,
are
absolutely.
There are I can see how we could be bigger than mortals. We are in the image of God, so we are. So to me,
we are definitely special. We are definitely special.
I just don't like the idea that we get a fast pass, sin all the way till we die, and then we go to heaven. It bothers me. It bothers me, and I feel like we're supposed to learn how to be like gods or whatever, like Jesus. Like Jesus is God restrained to flesh, being the perfect person. He's like without sin, is exactly how you're supposed to be. And then from there, you're able to do more because God needs you to do more, right?
Right.
This is
He'll call you
exercise kind of a thing.
He'll call you, because I was never going to be a podcaster, that's for sure. And he'll tell you exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Like, hey, go tell this message. And I'm like, I don't know anyone. I have no friends. And then he's like, guess what you're going to do? You're going to have friends online. Here you go. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why? And then, you know, you can question it or you can reject it. But at the end of the day, I definitely feel it all goes back to that one thing, which is we are supposed to help our fellow man, period, and love our fellow man. I'm not supposed to judge whether he goes to heaven or you go to heaven or whatever happens in heaven. I don't even care. I'm just trying to help people today. And that's what we need to do, is make everybody's, I always say, because I work in the mental hospital. I don't know if you knew that, but I am a psych nurse at the mental hospital. Wow. And I always tell people, like, why would some of the nurses are really rude. And I always say, why would you want to make somebody's worst day like worse? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, go retire, you know? And I mean, it has to get back to that point. Like, how can you walk past people just on the street starving or whatever, like in true actual need, like, or people that, you know, you could help. Yeah, you can't save the world, but you can do some things.
You mean like the establishment of the call to establish Zion on earth?
Well, also Mother Teresa thought that suffering was a path to God. So there's some criticism that, like, they'd be all these pictures of her with people suffering, and they're just like, oh, she must be there helping them out. And no, she was kind of sitting there just like, man, that person's having such a great time connecting to God right now. This is awesome. You know?
No, not like that.
Well, there's a certain way of it. I think of the imagery in Isaiah where it describes the Messiah as a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. And if we're striving to live the path that he would live, I'm sure we would have similar sorrows and grief. But it does get swallowed up. It gets swallowed up in others. That's one thing.
Right.
When I went through a divorce back in my 20s, it ripped my guts out, because it's like, I'm supposed to make Mormon babies. That's my way to
my ghost babies.
But
I'm a clone. I'm just gonna clone a bunch.
I had to triple down on my spiritual efforts to make it through that. And going like I'd never experienced depression in my whole life. I like the kind of enthusiasm you get from me in a situation like this. That's the only way that I am. And it's a medical condition I got. But I recognize
I have two ways. I'm either as happy as this or I'm really mad.
It's 'cause whenever they laid their hands down on Jacob, they would just hit him really hard doing it. And so
when I went through that sorrow and when I went through that grief, it made it so I could connect with others more. There was a sweet young grandma lady who's just kind of an eternally youthful personality. Her husband died the first year that he retired of cancer. And I realized, holy cow, I love her more. I feel connected with her more. Like we went to Sizzler together somewhat regularly. And I realized
her name wasn't Norma, was it? Because if it was, it'll scare me. Okay.
No, her name is Jackie. And
okay. But that's also okay. It's like right next to a Norma.
In other words,
right.
Suffering is not for the sake of suffering. If we're
Sizzler. To be... No, that was my grandma's name, and her husband died right after he retired, so that scared me.
But yeah, in other words, when we're talking about Mother Teresa and the suffering, it's not for the sake of suffering. It's for us to learn how to empathize with others, even at their lowest, the same way that the Savior did for us.
Well, when I become prophet of X Church, I haven't written this down yet, but we'll reestablish Zion on earth, so there'll be less suffering. That'll be a big thing, and we'll just I want to do all the things that Jacob wants Joseph Smith to be. I'm really into that. I think we'll get rid of oppression. We'll have self-determination and sovereignty. Wrestling matches, dueling can come back, but it has to be consensual. Everything should be consensual.
Consensual. Everything should
consensual. Dueling will be back.
Andreas, then the second coming won't happen because you'll make it be too good.
You won't even notice it when it happens, but it'll happen. Trust me.
I was announcing a duel instead of a wrestling match. How cool would that be? It's like,
oh my God,
might be my last podcast.
Right? I mean, I don't think anything's going to get done.
Last podcast.
Nothing's going to get done unless we build towards the future. And so the call of Zion really just means that we're trying to get to a level where we're as close to celestial as possible, where we're away from, suffering, which is suffering is keeping us in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, away from pursuing altruistic values. So there's a lot of reasons why. And along with that, I mean, like the original call of Zion was to build all of these temples to sciences. They weren't just to to wash yourself. They were so you could learn math and physics and science and things like that. So I see that idea of progress and cosmism to be really important, like Christ consciousness. I think that's the thing also that we need to be looking at is like, you can do it too. You can become part of Christ's movement to make the world a better place. I don't see everyone saying that. It's one of the reasons why Mormonism seems so alluring, because they're saying you got to be a saint. You got to commit and receive miracles. I mean, that should be, I think that's the least that anyone should demand.
Oh, well, I think that at the end of the day, like, you have to look at what it is we are supposed to focus on, right? Like, I think science is important, science and seance. I mean, but back in the day, I mean, I'm a nurse, so I do science, but I'm just saying, like, we have to keep it, we have to stay in our lane as well, because look at John D. He was brilliant, but look at where it got him, raising somebody else's kid for the rest of his life. That's where it got him. But I always say people that were occult in nature often started with an altruistic start, really, other than Crowley. He did not. He was not that from the beginning. He just didn't want to be told to do anything ever. And he was going to figure out how to do that. But a lot of them started with really good intentions. The best intentions can often have catastrophic ends, right? So I think a lot of times, I would love to say, okay, we could get to that altruistic point where we can all work on ascension and different things like that. But then actually what really happens with idle hands, right? Oh, yes. Look at that.
Oh, that's nice.
This is brutal.
I feel like there is an end goal here where
golden arches,
full assimilation can happen, because
their
there's
boobs,
more. What is more American than a combination of Mormonism and McDonald's?
And boobs. Because the arches are boobs.
Disney and the Vatican, I used to say.
That's hilarious.
I want Mormonism to work out, but it sounds like more and more what we're doing is we're building our own thing, and I like
I
that
think you'd have
too.
to change it. Yeah.
But I
If
think a
you
lot
want
of
to make
people,
it, if you want to make it work, I think you would have to change it. I mean,
Well, what do we have to? So again, the namesake of this particular episode is that we're continuing to fix Mormonism. This is part
yes.
2. I do feel like we've put a bunch of things on the table, but now like
Yes.
what are the corrective? Let's put Mormonism on like a personal
so we
progress
start, first off, we
plan, right?
we got to start from scratch, like Heidi's saying. So we start with X Church, and we can bring in, and as X Church grows, we can buy
He
back
is the prophet.
the
He
temple
is the
lot,
prophet.
and once we buy the temple lot, then they'll just kind of like they'll franchise. It'll all franchise. So starting with X Church, what would we do in Heidi's opinion? Because it's a very important.
Oh
opinion.
boy. It's a very important thing.
Very important
Oh
opinion.
boy. Oh man. I think that you should definitely have it to be Christ-centered. And
Yeah.
that's the main important part. That's it. Like everything hangs on the cross. And then the rest should come from your heart, right? Because nobody should be told to do anything. If God changes your heart, you should want to,
Does that
right?
include when you tell your kids to clean their room?
My kids and their rooms are just, I'm an OCD person, so I just can't go in there. I have been banned from the bedrooms minus once a week.
Jacob, what
And
about
it's
you? What do you think
very
we need to
clean.
do? What are we going to do to save the church?
I know that the Lord knows how to clean his own house. I'm going to put in a plug for those who are wondering. Read Doctrine and Covenants, section 101, verses 45 through 63, the parable of the redemption of Zion, the short version of it, how the Lord will clean house. He had a vineyard in a choice land, and he sent out his servants to plant the 12 olive trees, to build the hedge for protection, and put a tower in the midst to find the enemy from a far distance off. And what happened? That the servants were in the midst of starting to build the tower. They did all the other stuff, planted the trees in the hedge, but they became slothful. Isn't this a time of peace? Shouldn't the money that's supposed to go to the tower, shouldn't we just send that to the money exchangers? And while they were at variance one with another, the enemy came, broke through the hedge, scattered the watchmen, and took over the vineyard. So the Lord will cleanse his own house. Those servants who are heeding the voice of the Lord, I anticipate, just like the Lord says in Doctrine and Covenants, section 101, they will be among those that the Lord says, go back to my vineyard that has been taken over. Break down the hedge, scatter their watchmen, and destroy their false tower. The Lord's in charge of it, not us. I hope to be a part of it, heeding his instructions.
The Lord is definitely in charge. I agree with that. Hey.
Hey.
Vatican. I want the community of Christ has that temple at the temple lot, and I want that
Thomas,
temple lot.
you got to copy all of us and put us in there, like right
Yeah.
with him. Yeah.
The prophet.
I get to be at the right hand of Christ the Mikito.
There you go.
I get to be in the left-hand path. How about that?
I'm just looking at the comments. Somebody said that the Genghis Khan role, Lord. I think that's what I described. Like Genghis Khan is going to go back in and take out those who took over the Lord's vineyard. Maybe.
Do you have any thoughts on temple? Like temple lot's crazy because like we're talking about Joseph Smith getting assassinated because he was trying to do what he's talking about right there. He was the Freemasons didn't want to build this giant city. That city was going to be super amazing. It's going to be more amazing than Walt Disney World's Epcot Center, right? That's basically what it's the first Epcot Center is Zion, Nauvoo, right? And so that was the war. I feel like even before the Civil War is to try to destroy Zion. It was the most important thing that the Freemasons did. They were all triple alliance trying to destroy Zion.
I don't think you should build Zion in Utah.
No, but Nauvoo, the original one, where in
not
Missouri,
Jackson County either.
Jackson County. You don't think Jackson County? Why not? Because Missouri seems like hell and Eden at the same time, doesn't it? It's like a veil and Eden. There's a veil there, and if you could save it, you could turn it right back because it could be amazing. Misery could be amazing.
If you make Missouri amazing,
that's why Joseph Smith
work only the Lord can do.
See what I'm saying?
That's true.
Yeah. Also, they have 10 gigabit fiber, dark fiber.
He's already checked into this. He's
Emerald City. You know who else? The Emerald City. It's Wizard of Oz. Like, there's a reason why Missouri matters, right?
Well, it could be, or it could just be Missouri.
It's a weird place.
I have to ask too: is there room for transubstantiation in X Church and Mormonism, or is that like a no-no?
Transubstantiation is cool with Xirtus. What do you think, Heidi?
Oh man, I don't know. You
And
know,
the real
close to
question here is,
necromancy?
are
I would
snacks
keep
okay
it
in
very
church?
just.
The thing about
Yeah, I mean, why not?
transubstantiation, here's how I would do it. So I'm not into the sacrificial blood atonement ritual. I would probably scrap that, but I would keep the idea that you don't need to perform animal or human sacrifices
Definitely not.
through transubstantiation. I would use rice
But
cake like
you
the
would still
Vedas.
do the sacrament, but you just wouldn't do
Yeah, well, because
like bread
I
and
mean,
water.
it's
Okay.
the most important thing Christ did,
Yeah, of
right? It was the
course. Of
Passover. He's like,
course.
"Look, I'm about to die. Remember why we're friends." But
Mhm.
I probably
Right.
wouldn't use it as like, I
The
wouldn't use it.
body.
I mean, it's his body, but the body in a different way. I wouldn't use it to say I don't really like the idea of your sins are forgiven because of the blood sacrifice. I don't know. I've never really liked that part. I feel like that's
Yeah.
Paul's cap out. It's Paul murdered so many people. He's like, look,
Mhm.
here's how it's going to work. We're
He's
going to
like,
do
I
it
need
this
some
way."
help here. No.
Because like then the Catholic Church became cannibals, right? They had like archonic Eucharist, which was beyond transubstantiation. It was using human blood to transubstantiate fallen angel and angel blood, right?
No,
So I mean,
I totally believe in all of that.
those are
Fallen angels.
those are the reasons why like I can vibe with the apostasy and needing to like clean house and help with it a bit.
Do you think that was off menu?
Yeah, no, I feel like that's like it's like cocaine whale at like
Yeah.
the sushi place.
Filipino blood
I
here.
mean, yeah, it's the gold juice. I mean, it's plasma, right?
Right. There's always going to be that small group of priests that are doing that.
Mickey tastes like chicken.
Body of Mickey.
Body of Mickey. Yeah, no kidding.
So
Oh,
I
boy.
feel like we're on the way to solving and fixing Mormonism, but Heidi,
Yes.
how far are we at 4,990 negative 4,999 yet? Or are we still at negative 5,000 in terms of Mormonism?
I still am negative 5,000 on the Book of Mormon, but I happen to really respect these guys' opinions. So I do.
If we were
I
to
actually
time
love
travel.
I love like the way your outlook is on it still, despite like we can disagree and agree still, because it's all about Jesus for all of us, and that's all that really matters to me. So
I mean, beyond the Book of Mormon being like true or false, though, like you seem to like the idea against secret combinations. You like that it says you shouldn't be in Freemasonic secret
Definitely not.
societies. You like that part of it, right? That's not in the Bible.
Definitely. I feel like if Freemasons want to be Freemasons, they go do that, but it shouldn't have anything to do with church, right?
Well, the Book of Mormon says Freemason secret combinations are dangerous for our society. Do you agree with that?
I would not. Yes, I would not do an oath to anything or anyone.
I mean, don't you think it's kind of useful then, even just that it says that? Like, what are the things in the Book of Mormon that you're like, nah, I don't think I want to practice that one,
I mean, I think
excluding doctrines and covenants, just Book of Mormon.
Okay, well, that's the bulk of it, right? Like, I mean, I just feel
hit the Book of Mormon. Is there something that you would point to in the Book of Mormon and say, Jacob, you got to abandon that?
Dude, Nephi getting drunk in the
most
street.
of it's in the Doctrine and Covenants. Yeah, like I mean,
Doctrine and Covenants. I agree with you. We all agree with you.
Yeah. Most of it is in there, but I just often wonder, like I said, where the book came from. That's more my like. The ceremonies, but if you get rid of the ceremonies, then we're maybe not worshiping Abraxas anymore, right? Who knows?
Yeah.
So
those ceremonies.
Then you've lost me, unfortunately. I'm no longer coming.
You have to have 5 fingers to even do the token, Thomas.
Yeah, you can't do it. Oh man, we need another character. We need a character with 5 fingers.
I also just the idea
Shaggy.
The idea of the Book of Mormon being useful despite its origin point. I think that's also one of like Dan Vogel's point, that this came out at a time where it affected everybody. I don't see it saying, the white and delightsome thing even, right? There's a part
that was
there.
Brigham, yeah.
So it's like I have a hard time finding like the Book of Mormon to be the problem
Brigham,
with Mormonism. So
yeah. Definitely the oaths, the swearing oaths and the things. Honestly, even Mormonism itself, I'm unoffended if they would just be honest. Like, I thought my square and compass on my boobs were darts for sewing because that's how much they don't tell you. Like, I had no idea. And so I just think they need to be more honest. Like I've told Thomas before, like he knows what he's doing. when he goes and does his stuff, they are forthright and you know what you're doing. If you go sign up for any club or whatever, they're going to tell you stuff like, oh, you have to do this, this, and this to get in our club. That's how it should be. Like, and if mainstream Mormonism wants to do that, like, I don't care, but stop lying to people and telling them that we got to go do these weird things at the curtain to get to heaven.
That's
like,
Jacob's.
please.
That's Jacob's point, and so that's also why I think it's interesting, this idea that you really how convinced are you that, because it's just, I don't know, it's not a reasonable question to ask you, but looking at
I'm
looking
very
at
open. You realize this,
but looking at Freemasonry and Mormonism and the Book of Mormon, it seems like from the Book of Mormon saying you should not do these things to Joseph Smith being murdered and then all of a sudden moving to Utah and then them doing those
all the things.
that there's something that changed, right? It feels like there's a change there. Right? It's not, it seems to me that we're living in a post Freemasonic takeover of the temples that they built.
They do have magical underwears.
No,
we don't want those.
And that's yes,
they're not sexy. No,
but they did switch to modal, which is a bamboo fiber.
I have to put them on and just flex. Oh my goodness!
I had them, and for girls, they are not sexy.
You said they were sheer, right? Sheer is
they
inherently
can be
sexy, is it not?
I think a lot of people are into
it's
it.
Like granny sexy. It could be granny sexy.
We don't kink shame on this show. I don't care
I drink
where you came
postum.
from, but
that's
we
all
don't
I'm going to
kink shame
say.
here.
I drink postum just like Granny.
We have to have coffee if I'm coming to your church. For God's sake, we cannot not have coffee. No.
All right, you can have coffee. No, that's fine.
Oh,
you can have beer and coffee, and like we can sell it like Brigham Young did. You know, that's the way. Yeah.
And then they named it Pale Ale.
I'm gonna do it now. I'm drinking the hop seltzer water. This is basically the Antichrist of beer.
Oh my goodness.
It's not beer, it's alcoholic free. This is literally just seltzer water that's been soaked in the hops plant. There's no calories or liquor.
They now need to sponsor Andreas Xirtus.
This words of wisdom right here. Try it. That's all I'm saying. You know.
But we don't need the words of wisdom, right?
No, my words of wisdom, not that one.
Okay.
I'll tell you
actually,
what.
those words of wisdom are actually, if you ever read them, they don't say anything about any of the things that you're banned.
It just says hot drinks.
And it also says that the herbs are good for you. So if you really follow the word of wisdom, there should be a lot more stoner Mormons. That's all I'm saying.
He's like, yeah.
Yeah, somebody's putting in the comment, that beard, Jacob. And I have to say, it is not real. This is how I hide from the feds.
Yes.
Now,
Andreas, don't look to your left.
I have since had to learn how to drink a beer. And since I have so little experience with alcohol, if I'm on an empty stomach, it only takes one tall boy and I'm done for the evening.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
I'm not a big drinker, actually. I am very I like to have all of it controlled, but
all
that's
your
just
faculties about you.
Since so many of the things about being a Mormon are to abstain from things that you would use in like a magical ritual, like hallucinogens or drugs or alcohol, even dieting, right?
Oh,
Thanks
man.
a lot,
Ouch.
I'll be all right. I'm pretty sure. I think I can handle a dose of estrogen probably.
You're like, I'm fine.
And I just wanted to ask
atrazine
Heidi,
in the water. Yeah.
Honestly, are you
California,
sure that you weren't just like not paying attention the day that they told you what the little square and compass was for?
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm certain. No, they don't tell us, do they, Jacob? They don't tell you about that.
It is definitely a part of the endowment to where one is the compass, an undeviating course leading in the path of righteousness. The square is a perfect rectitude. So no, it's specifically a part of the LDS endowment.
Yes, you don't learn it until you're going through it. It's like you're at the wedding.
Until you're there. You're already there. Yeah.
And it is not explained outside of the LDS endowment setting.
Nope. And you're just confused.
Is there a part of the ceremony when the endowment ceremony where they're just like, Mormon says what? Dumb Mormon says what?
Pretty
sort
much.
of. They're like, is this? They say, what is this? Is this a sign? It is. It's like,
I still got to send those videos to you. Oh
yes, please.
Yes, I got to remember that.
I heard there was another one too where they basically say that like you can't get into Cobol, or you can't get your own planet if your hand is bigger than your face, and then you put your hand over your face, and then someone slaps it, and then it's like this is, it's
except
Cobol that's how they set your tattoo in. They do the same, right? That's how you set that in.
You flip Kolob and Cobalt from Battlestar Galactica, but otherwise it's pretty
what
close.
it is. That's
Yeah.
what it is.
When the time comes, I am willing to sing y'all a song a cappella. I think last time I tried to pull out the audio was
all right.
Was the audio decent enough when I tried to pull
that
out?
was good. He's got a guitar, you know. It's not just acapella.
You tell me when, because I'll give you one. And like
Thomas is in charge.
Thomas, you are in charge. I'm just
whatever you want.
Give it to you. Give me.
You have a guitar?
Yes, I got. Do I have? A guitar? I'll turn around the camera and show you the Wall O guitars.
It's like John the Baptist with a guitar right now.
Give me 30 seconds while I go grab the acoustic that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to ask those inside of the chat. You've got your choice of "Come, O Thou King of Kings" or "High on the Mountaintop." High on the mountaintop. "O Thou King of Kings." I'm going to be looking for it in the chat. I'll be right back.
What do you think, Heidi? King of Kings or Mountaintop?
Mountaintop, I bet.
Really? Okay.
They're gonna Freebird.
Yeah. The chat has spoken. It's gonna be
the chat has spoken. That's what's up.
We're not gonna use democracy in X Church. We'll be very careful about that.
You're like, none of that. We gotta put them in a little box.
Very careful.
The people have spoken.
It's gonna have to be Freebird, unfortunately.
Freebird! More than one person put in Freebird.
They're actually both me.
Oh, okay. That's the best form of democracy. Now I like it again. It's like Saddam Hussein democracy.
There you go.
And goodbye.
Oh, that's me.
Come, O thou King of Kings, we've waited long for thee, with healing in his wings, to set thy people free. Come, thou desire of nations, come, let Israel now be gathered home. Come, make an end to sin, and cleanse the earth by fire, and righteousness bring in, that saints may tune the lyre with songs of joy, a happier strain, to welcome in thy peaceful reign. Hosannas now shall sound from all the ransomed throng, and glory echo round a new triumphal song. The wide expanse, the heavens fill, with anthems sweet from Zion's hill.
And there's 7 more verses, but that's all you're going to get.
Woo!
Way better than that organ, gotta say.
Jeez Louise,
Definitely.
Some of that stuff gets boring. Like, I know a lot of these songs were meant to be strummed on the guitar, not some grandma in the last years of her life pressing a button on the organ.
Sure, man.
Well,
there we go.
wrong with that.
And you know what?
Rock on, Jacob. Did you see?
X Church will be using your music as well as Colabite, and we'll have a bunch of cool ladder wave and Saint Tronica that you'll be listening to. You can get Saint Hop as well. But and you know, Heidi, just so you know, like it's one of those things. It's kind of like Mormonism. You don't have to decide now. Like if you die and you decide, I have a planet waiting for you, and just don't worry about it. So
Andreas, are you going to baptize me when I'm dead?
Dude.
Like, oh crap!
We got to come up with virtual baptisms. That's the way. Virtual baptisms is going to be fine. That's the slippery slope.
Oh man, you better believe. Thomas, have you had fun tonight?
I have. I honestly, I like this more, where I can just kind of like click on funny comments and show it, and like
he likes to pretend he's just watching a show, but he likes to make the show he's watching. It's one of the
Well, it's the same philosophy with AI music, right? Like I just want to listen to like my own little creation. And you know what? You guys are very well behaved, though. I've been on a million different podcasts at this point where people aren't as well behaved.
They
So
didn't
thank
spit
you
or
all.
curse. It's amazing.
And
right?
for
Sometimes I think I might have.
on. That's very great. Very good on you, Heidi. This is the first time that Heidi's
Oh,
kept their
I
clothes on in a full
know.
show.
Oh,
Start there.
Sorry, everyone. I'm sorry. I disappointed.
She keeps trying to show the Mormon underwear, but we made
Join
a deal.
the
True.
Patreon.
Church.
It's
True.
all on the Patreon.
It's limited.
He's gonna get a
exclusive.
million Patreons now. I'm just kidding.
So I would like to go around the room and just tell everyone where they can find you. So we'll start with Heidi.
I am Heidi Love. I'm at the Unfiltered Rise. I'm everywhere podcasts are served. I do have a Patreon at Unfiltered Rise, and we do little extras and all the fun things there. And we also do a little bit of conspiracy. So not just God talk, but mostly God talk.
All right, and then the new entry here, my new best friend Jacob.
Thank you, Thomas. I'm Jacob Isbell. You'll find me if you go to YouTube, type in Disciple of Christ. You'll see a dude that looks like me doing interviews about people's spiritual journeys. And if you type in Midnight Mormons, Jacob Isbell, you'll see me having some feisty debates with mainstream Mormon millennials. And you can look me up on Facebook. I accept friend requests, but I'll ask you to what do I owe the pleasure of your friend request? April 6th, General Conference weekend, I will be wrestling Jacob Hansen.
Based. So based. Gloriously based.
We'll be there.
I will.
You coming? You guys? I'll come. I'm
Oh, yeah,
serious.
we're all going. And you
We're
know
going.
me. You know me. Everybody knows me.
Bring
but
your
if you're
hops
going-
water.
Go to www.andreas.me if you don't know me. But also, if you're watching this on my channel, make sure you go to Paranoid American stream, because I'm really swap streaming Paranoid American stream. Paranoid American, we do a show every Tuesday, Think Tank, which is amazing. And so you'll want to come on my channel and watch the Think Tanks on Tuesdays. But beyond the Xirtus, Paranoid American is doing a lot of amazing content himself. So make sure you go check out that as well. And yeah, April Gen Con, come to Utah and let's watch Jacob Isbell throw down the magic underpants.
Yeah, throwing magic underpants. That's what I want. I want you to give him a wedgie with his magic underpants.
It's going to be glorious.
Oh, we've got a soundboard? How did you only break the soundboard out at the very end?
It's plotting from the background.
And
yeah. I'm sorry. One more thing. Tomorrow I'm doing a thing with QAnon Shaman, and Jacob will also be there, I think. And maybe if Paranoid American, you're there, right? So cool.
I would love to. I need to go out and get some face paint.
Okay. And we'll do some more stuff soon, Heidi, because God bless
All
you.
right. Yes,
So
let's do it.
You're gonna get a planet. Everyone's gonna get. Take under your seat. There's a planet for everyone.
You get a planet, and you get a planet, and you get a planet.
It's
There
gonna be
you
pretty
go.
Faustian though, because you got to become a planet. I didn't want to say that part. But
Yeah.
And also, you have to bring your own planet with you, and it's
Yeah.
more of like a ceremonial thing where they like give it back to you in front of an audience, but you had to have it already, which kind of sucks. But.
Okay,
Yeah, and
Wizard of Oz.
Then you get the planetary version of Missouri.
Well, thank everyone again for coming. This was awesome. We will fix it eventually. We might not have fixed Mormonism tonight, but we will fix it by the end of the year.
We're way
I
close.
guarantee everybody
close.
or your money back.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, thank you, everyone. I'll play us out with
Thank
the
you.
best commercial that you'll see.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
go check out Heidi's new show, her new awesome logo. Who did that? That was awesome.
Uh-oh. That's you.
I love you guys all.
cow.
Much
have a great
love,
night.
much love,
Have a great
everyone.
weekend.
Bye.
See ya.
And all American stickers, cryptids, cults, and killers. We got all your favorite conspiracies, all of that and more on our sticker sheets. Paranoid American stickers, they'll make you smile and snicker. False flags and secret society, all of these and more on our sticker sheets.
Explore the unique with Paranoid American sticker sheets. Unearth tales of cryptids, cults, and mysteries through each sticker. These won't last long. Get yours now at paranoidamerican.com.
And all American stickers, cryptids, cults, and killers. We got all your favorite conspiracies, all of that and more on our sticker sheets. Paranoid American stickers, they'll make you smile and snicker. False flags and secret society. All of these and more on our sticker sheets.
What the heck are you waiting for? Discover the extraordinary with Paranoid American sticker sheets. From cryptids in the night to cults out of sight, each sticker is a unique find. Get yours now at paranoidamerican.com.